Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good
Happy amazing
morning.
day to all of you. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning.
And good morning, Phil. How are you, Phil?
I am doing great, Sachin. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. I've been looking forward to this actually since April during our live event when we put the event together and then committed to doing this. And, I've learned so much from you, Dan and Phil, over the last few months. I want to give a little bit of backstory before we jump in so everyone has some more context as to who you both are and how much of an impact you've made in our business and in our lives personally as well. So I'll backtrack just a few, almost probably like 8 to 9 months. I joined a group, a mastermind mentorship group called TFL, which is called Try for Leaders, which is run by Kevin Thompson. And Kevin is a longtime friend from Genius Network. So very well-connected individual and very heart-centered. And he put together a tribe of leaders. And that's how I got involved with his mastermind. And then his role is connecting others, other like-minded people who have synergistic businesses and fantastic opportunities to work with one another. And he put me in touch with Dan. And Dan was the behind the scenes kind of secret tool for Joe Polish to take his Genius Network to a whole new level. And that really perked my ears because one of our objectives is to take our mentorship to a whole new level and deliver exceptional value and also, create an impact at the same time. So Dan and I had a few conversations and there was a ton of alignment in terms of our values and our beliefs. And as a result of that, we hired Dan and Phil and his team called Breakthrough 3X to coach me. So every week, Deepa, Phil, Dan, and myself get on a call and we strategize on how we can make not only our businesses better, but also create more impact. And normally, Dan reserves these type of half-day trainings for his very exclusive clients. And I guess we're one of them. And
Yes.
as always, we want to not just learn for ourselves, but we want to share and pay it forward as best as we can. So Dan said, hey, you guys are putting on an event. I'd love to speak there because I can offer a lot of value, which he did. And then he said, I want to do a half day with your mentees, which he did as well. And just to satisfy everyone's curiosity, Dan, how much would you normally charge for a half day training? How much would that cost if we were to hire you to do that?
10 grand. Yep.
Okay. So today you're getting a training that many entrepreneurs have paid and would pay $10,000 for. So make sure your pen doesn't run out of ink. Make sure all your distractions are put away or out of sight. I'm going to put my phone on silent. I've got my Remarkably here to take tons of notes. And one of the things that Dan and I had a conversation about is that everyone's in a different part of the spectrum, right? So some of us are beginners, some of us are in the middle of the journey, and some of us are, in the scaling part of the journey and trying to figure out how do we, get more time? How do we have more freedom? So with that in mind, we've put together, or at least Dan and Phil, I can't say I've put together the presentation, but Dan and Phil have put together a conversation and a training that's going to appeal to you no matter where you are in the spectrum. And this is probably one of those trainings that I would imagine you can come back to in the future as well. So take notes, not just for where you are now, but take notes for who you will be in the future so you could reference them as well. Okay. I would start a new section in your notebook or even a separate notebook if you want. Maybe you can keep a Google Doc with your notes in it so you can update them periodically, but be prepared for a ton of value. And what I can say about Dan and Phil is they're very humble. Dan, as you'll find out, is a very family-oriented person. That's one of his highest values. He's also a coach for his son's football team. And so alignment in values is very important to us. And I know that is for all of you. And he's helped us almost double our revenue from all of 2020 in the first quarter since our event. So we've seen remarkable growth using his methodologies and strategies. I've accomplished more impact and more freedom simultaneously. And I'm excited to hear what he has to share and also to have him share with our community. So with that being said, I don't want to eat into your time too much, Dan, because I could say nice things about you for hours, and Phil as well, but I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, essentially, Sachin has invested in you for us to have this time together. So can we give either a virtual applause for Sachin, or we can do a real one, or we can even just do something corny and do a high five, because I love doing high fives, or we can do this too, right? We can do band hands or whatever, right? So good morning, by the way. It's awesome to be with you. Some of you are all over the world. So my goal is to make this an amazing few hours together. I have a tendency to go really, really fast. I put together, Phil and I worked on putting together several different presentations for you that ideally I think are going to, as Sachin mentioned, really cover whether you're kind of new or in the middle of the journey, or even, doing some really big things already and everything in between. So, so are you guys ready to roll? If you're ready to roll, can you guys type yes in the chat window? All right, let me pull up my slides and we will get this rolling right now. So let's go here. And ideally you can see my screen. And
yep, we can see it.
all right, perfect. All right, so today our focus is needle movers, 4 pillars to perfect your message, your model, and your offer so you can get more clients daily and you can get out of the day-to-day of your practice, your business, right? To have more freedom to focus on the things that you really want to focus on. And the idea is that you're going to have the perfect client blueprint to get new patients and clients daily. Really, the way we refer to it is building an operating system for your sales and marketing, right? That's basically, if you could kind of think of it like a machine that's working all the time, whether you're working or not, right? Which is great. So today we're also going to focus on what is working right now, what's working today. The 4 pillars. So this is just a glance at our full 4 pillars, but this is what we're going to work to cover today. How to attract your perfect patients and clients with your perfect message. And we're going to actually have you do workshop style, you refining your message so that you're walking out of here with actionable steps. Number 2, the 4-step unique MO method that helps you stand out from the crowd and makes your patients and clients say yes to you. How many of you think that would be valuable, by the way? If that would be valuable for you, feel free to type yes in the chat window, right? Pillar number 3, creating your ultimate growth model or sales model. This is a blueprint literally that led us to get to 1,000 leads a day, 100 sales a day, and over $100 million in business, right? So I want to take you behind, and again, we only have a short time, so we'll go give you as much as we can in the time that we've got. And pillar number 4, time permitting. Low-hanging fruit, one of about 107 optimization strategies so you can triple your practice, right? Now, part of what you'll discover, how to position yourself as a go-to authority and expert in your industry with your unique MO, how to fill your pipeline and calendar with high-value premium clients who are pre-sold on working with you using one of the core enrollment models. We're actually going to show you six core models. The step-by-step approach to transform your message to compel your perfect clients to want to work with you. How to structure an offer that gets your perfect clients to say yes to you and buy what you're offering, and a whole lot more. Now, if we covered all of this today in the couple hours we have together, would you guys consider this really valuable? Yeah? All right. So this is for you. If you've been running your practice, right, or running your business, and maybe you feel like in some ways you're like the world's best kept secret, or maybe you want a system for generating a steady flow of new patients and clients daily, without actually risking money on advertising, right? And maybe deep down, you know you're good at what you do and you can help more of your patients if you could just get more of them, call it through the front door, whether that's virtually or physically or both, right? Why is this important today? These strategies are going to give you the ability to transform your practice, get you out of the day-to-day, help more people. Plus, Sachin and I are on a mission with you to help over 1,000 functional medicine practitioners transform their practice so that you can get out of the day-to-day stress and have a bigger impact. Who's with me on this, by the way? If you are, can you type yes or raise your hand, or or whatever. You could even type Shazam. You might have your own power word, Shazam, or heck yes, hell yes, whatever it is for you. Feel free to type those in the chat. Now, I want to dive right into a strategy here. I was speaking at a mastermind not too long ago, and this young man, Brandon, who's really sharp, doing some really cool things. He said, "Hey, Dan, like if you could think back to your journey at doing I've been doing this 30 years, right? So I started my first business in the late 1980s. That was a little side business. My first like real business that had any momentum was in 1992. I'll get more into that in a few minutes. But he asked me, he said, Dan, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made? And he really got me to kind of tune in. And so I want to share some of these with you, because I think by helping you avoid some of these common mistakes, right, it's going to help you get unstuck. It's going to help you see some blind spots. It's going to help you connect the dots a little bit faster, easier, and better. All right, fair enough. So here's a couple. Here's a big mistake, focusing on tactics versus focusing on principle-based strategies, right? There's a lot of magic button models out there, a lot of push this button and you're going to make whatever, X dollars in business. I encourage you to focus on timeless principles that are timely, and also focus on principle-based business strategies, not just tactics, because tactics will come and go. But if your principles or the foundation is not laid, what happens? It's like a house built on sand, right? So really critical. Number 2, the offer is good, not irresistible. There's been many campaigns. I've probably had, I don't know, a few hundred services and products with, the 13 different companies I've had over the years that were good. And I kept beating my head against the wall, go, why can't I sell more? And it just wasn't irresistible, or I didn't really frame it in an irresistible way. We're going to help you solve that today, by the way. So the offer is good, but not irresistible. Number 3, lacking authority, right? So there's a couple ways this plays out, is being positioned as an authority, and then also buying into the BS that a lot of, maybe not BS, maybe an outdated approach. Like, have you ever heard somebody say that to get people to buy from you, they must like you and trust you, right? Now, my belief, and I've dissected this over the years, I'm kind of a visceral, also a deep thinker, and I like to really break things down and go, is that true? In fact, I encourage you to do that with what I'm sharing with you today. Is that true? Right? So all I can share and all I can teach and all I can show you is from my own personal experience, right? And there's a lot of nuances to some of these things. So, but I've always been someone, is that true? Is that really true? And so there's a lot of experts that for decades have been teaching to get people to buy from you, they must like you and trust you. And I think about my own experience. I don't know about you. Have you ever like really stopped and thought how you buy? Have you always bought from the people you like? Have you always bought from the people you trust? For me, I can only speak of my experience. The answer is no. And I've bought homes and big things and travel packages. I didn't know them well enough to like them or trust them. Right. So I think some of the, the spirit of some of the stuff that's being taught out there in marketing and sales is powerful, but sometimes people just kind of copy because it sounds good. So I want to challenge you to go, is that true? Right. So I do believe that it can help with like it, but here's what we found. I've actually surveyed thousands and thousands of founders, CEOs, medical practitioners are in there as well. And we have found that a large majority of people who are running their own business, CEOs, founders, business owners, are people pleasers. And so if you teach a people pleaser to actually build their business model with the focus of getting them to like you and trust you, what do we find? Many times they give their stuff away. If you've ever felt that way, they are constantly, they feel like they're giving and giving and giving, but not seeing a lot of it coming back. And so a new model that we've been teaching for several years with our clients that we just install automatically when we work with them as a co-pilot is, let's not focus so much on like and trust, focus on trust and respect, which is an authority-based model. Now, here's the strategic byproduct. When you build the right kind of trust respect model, is they like you, but you're not leading with that. So hopefully that kind of gives you some insight and also a few distinctions to be thinking about for you. So those are 3 big ones. Number 4, lacking a model that moves people through the journey. Right now, the journey of the client experience, we consider in 3 layers, not just one. Lots of people go, what's my ROI, return on investment, which is great. And that's one layer of the 3, right? So you write that one down, ROI, return on investment. That's the one most people think about. The other is return on impact, right? Return on impact. Do we really think about that? Another is return on implementation. Like if I put this action, number 1, what is the return? Number 2, what is the cost if I don't put this in action? And then I'm actually going to add a bonus one for this, ROI 4. This is one we've recently been working with the last few months, which is return on interaction. Like you're in Sachin's world for a reason, right? You've been, however you met him, call it serendipity, whatever, there's a reason. Like you found Sachin in his world. He's the best in the world at what he does for this industry, for you, right? You're there. Why? Because he, whether he knows it or not intuitively or by design or a little bit of both, return on interaction. You love working with Sachin and his team. Return on implementation. You know that if you actually just take action and get the things implemented that he's going to show you and his team will show you, you're going to get results, right? As long as you've got stamina in the game, right? The return on impact, you're here because he is built that way. His DNA is focus on having an impact, and the financial stuff will follow, right? And then lastly is the return on investment, right? The finance side of it, right? I believe if you get the other 3 layers right, that the return on investment part kind of just, again, is a strategic byproduct of doing good in the world. Next mistake, automation and tech getting in the way of making money. How many of you have ever struggled with tech in getting your business going? If you have, can you type yes in the chat window for us? If tech and automation are kind of getting in the way. And what we see a lot of times from people with tech is they're so focused on trying to automate and automate and automate, they're actually not generating new business because they're so focused on automation. Remember, you're in the people to people, and Sachin, again, is one of the best in the world at showing you the value of this. Like, don't ever forget you're in the people to people, but it's not a B2B, it's not a B2C, it's a P2P, a person to person, a people to people business, right? Relationship capital is number 1, right? So don't automate yourself out of it. I've done this too often. I've gotten myself in the way where we got so big and fancy pants and all that sort of stuff when I had 200 employees and all this tech stuff running everything. We're in the people business. Keep it simple, right? Next, lacking an operating system for marketing and sales. We've surveyed thousands of business owners, founders, CEOs, and what we found, we ask them one simple question. Do you have a marketing plan blueprint? And literally over 95%, even the highest level people in the world go, no, right? One of the first things we do, like when we worked with Sachin, we helped him update his marketing plan blueprint. We actually go beyond and call it beyond the avatar, right? Because most people are surface level with like, get my avatar right. We go beyond the avatar to go really, really deep, right? Right. So you're also working with someone who has an operating system, and he shows you how to put a marketing and sales operating system in place, right? But this is a big mistake that we see a lot of people make. By the way, are you learning some good stuff already? I hope, right? Diving right in. Number 7, focusing on resources you have or don't have. This is kind of a mindset thing. Like I think about my early years, especially, but it's all relative, right? It's relative. Focusing on my resources I have. Oh, I don't have this person, or I don't have the money to do this advertising, or and here's the key. It's not about resources. It's about resourcefulness. Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is one of those hidden ingredients. So I'm blessed enough to be a high school, Sachin brought up, I coach youth football and also high school. I'm a high school head coach for a team here in Arizona. And I get to work with these young men and build leaders, right? Build future leaders, which is something I'm really passionate about as well, on top of all the crazy business stuff I've done for 30 plus years. And what we share with these guys, it's not about your talent always. It's some of the intangible things like resourcefulness, being a problem solver when most people kind of get stopped. There's a great quote. I forget who I can give tribute to on this quote, but write this down. You can tell the size of the person by the obstacles it takes to knock them off track, right? So like I see this in our high school. We've got some kids who come in, and they're not fully conditioned when we, start our initial practices, like we're just starting right now. We're running sprints and they're cashing out, so to speak, because their resources are depleted and they don't see a way beyond that barrier of being able, like, all I got to do is just keep at it. And I'm going to work through this. And we can all have this is a Jim Rohn quote. You can either have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? Resourcefulness wins always, right? Next, playing small. And let me just share with you. Doing this 30 years, I know I'm supposed to be here and be like, oh, I'm like the champion of the world. And I've been blessed. I have. I'll share some of the things in a minute. But here's the real deal. I have coaches, many of them. I'm in multiple masterminds for the reason that this is up here. I've invested literally over $1.5 to $2 million coaching, consulting, masterminds, because this is the one for me, because of my upbringing, which I'll get into in a little bit, I know is a pull. I'll just say today it's a pull, but before it was getting completely knocking me off my game. If you've ever felt like you got knocked off your game, easy or hard or somewhere in the middle, maybe you'll relate this, but here's what it is. It's suffering from imposter syndrome, or the words, I'm not good enough. Imposter syndrome, right? One of the biggest reasons to, be working with Sachin, not just in the short run, but years and years. I mean, he's a lifelong learner, lifetime learner. I'm a lifetime learner, right? And the reason, number one, it's the ROI cubed or ROI 4 that we covered when you're in the right places with the right coaches, with the right masterminds, but it's not a short-term thing. I look at working in all these sorts of things, and I encourage you to look at these as like a mutual fund, long-term return on investment, return on interaction, return on implementation, return on impact, long-term focus. It's why I still love writing checks to the people who've had the biggest impact on me, right? I hope you adapt that too, because this playing small and suffering from the imposter syndrome, I'll just say it's been the biggest one over 30 years. It has constantly been something I've had to go against, right? Next is attachment to outcomes, right? Looking at the things we do is winning versus losing. Oh, I ran this campaign and I lost and I lost and I lost. Oh, I'm losing and I can't play anymore. I'll share a story here in a couple of minutes about that exact thing, right? But here's what I found: the most successful people in the world, number one, a trait they all have, and Sachin has it, it's his DNA. The most successful people in the world, and I'm sure you have this ingredient too, but I want to call it out so you start to put it at the forefront daily, multiple times a day. And number one, it's gratitude. Number two is not seeing failure as failure, but it's winning versus learning. Winning versus learning. You run an ad campaign, you run a paid traffic campaign. I know you had one of the best in the world with you the other day, Bob, and I sometimes brutalize his last name, Regeneris, right? Bob is one of the best in the world at paid advertising. You might go, oh, I tried something like that, it didn't work. No, all of this will work if you just have the stamina and don't get caught up in attachment to winning and losing. Instead, call it winning and learning, right? So that's the 9th one. Now, again, are you guys getting some good stuff so far? Right? All right, so a brief intro. So my name's Dan Kushel. I'm a husband number 1, a dad number 2. Like, as soon as we're done with this training, I will be with our high school football team, because today's equipment checkout day for 189 men in our freshman, JV, and varsity team. So it's going to be quite a, well, frankly, I'm going to call it what it is. It's going to be a shit show where we're giving out all this equipment, locks, lockers, all these young men. Like, you can imagine what teenagers are like. They're like that, trust me, and probably even more than you could imagine. Anyway, if you coach, you know what I'm talking about, or if you have teenage young men who have a lot of adrenaline running. I'm the founder of a company called Breakthrough 3X, author of 4 best-selling books. Forbes rated our show, our podcast does, Growth to Freedom, is one of the top shows available. In our history, we've had well over 250,000 clients purchase our products, services, and tools, over 2.1 million subscribers to our free training. I've helped founders and CEOs from 180 industries, 11 countries. And I've partnered and worked with some of the biggest names in the world. Some of these you'll recognize, some of you won't. It doesn't matter really in the bigger picture. But like the top left, I don't know if you've heard of the media company ESPN, but I was blessed many years ago to work with the founder of ESPN, Bill Rasmussen, as a client. Dean Graziosi, Joe Polish, Daniel Marcos and Vern Harnish, Janet Atwood, Sachin, and many, many others. I've been very blessed. I mean, our top client, because our model is primarily built on performance-based models, which we'll get into irresistible offer. We'll talk about how to structure offers so that you can make it irresistible. But our top clients paid us over $1 million because we've helped them grow by over 10 million. So we're free. We like to think, and ideally, if you structure your offers right, you'll be free or be perceived as free to your client, not a cost. You're actually a multiplier, a maximizer, that sort of thing, right? But it hasn't always been this way. We get a lot of people who say, Dan, why are you doing what you're doing? So a quick story about my dad. When I was 10, my dad started a business and I watched him run that business basically right into the ground. I saw it fail right in front of my eyes, right? As a family, I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. And so it was an interesting place to grow up, and it, certainly builds a lot of character. And on top of that, when we went through this, we had to declare bankruptcy and we went on welfare. And there's nothing more humbling than being 10 years old in there's a store there called Farmer Jack's. We're in the neighborhood I grew up in, walking in with these fake money, food stamps, and then having to actually put groceries back because you don't even have enough food stamps to get the food. And I'll never forget that vivid experience in a grocery store aisle of going through that. To make matters worse, we had our electricity shut off, actually more than a few times. We couldn't afford to pay my mom's escalating medical bills for her issues. We had a gang in the neighborhood threaten to blow up our house. We had to borrow money from my uncle just to get by. And at the end of the day, we can use these things to fuel us or to hold us back. And for me, I believe it were some of the most valuable lessons to make sure to do something different, right? And I vowed that I was never going to have my kids or my family experience this, and I was going to actually help pull my mom and dad out of those kind of situations. But then here I was in 2002 running one of my businesses, and I'll never forget it because I had a team of about 20 or so people, and we were doing some things. And I was contemplating, I'd gotten this itch of how do I build in some of this online marketing stuff to propel my business, because everybody seemed to be making it work except me. And I was banging my head against the wall trying to figure it out. And I knew that I needed to pivot from just manual labor, one-to-one work, one-to-many, right? But the reality was I wasn't successful for about 6 months, right? And I remember sitting down, and I had my 20 staff, and I love to do, this is an exercise you might find enjoyable yourself. It's something that I do every month, which is, what do I have to do to double my business? And I might change it, double my impact, double this, double that. So I'm big on the double effect. And I remember that as sitting at that desk at that time when this was happening, and I broke out into a cold sweat, my neck, I was getting nauseous. I was oh my God, I had 20 team members in our office, and I was like, oh, the idea of doubling, I'm going to have to get 20 more of this. Oh no. And I was like, I've got to do something different. Right. And that's when I went after this online thing. But the fact is, after multiple attempts online with some models and campaigns we wrote and created, and I was studying all the top experts and working with I questioned whether I was good enough. I was ready to give up. I was burned out. I was tired of all of the revenue in my business being, coming from me. And I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, especially related to, I had 20 families, employees and their families to be responsible, plus my own family. And it got pretty heavy, right? And here's what I did next. I actually did something that's, from what I've come to learn in interviewing thousands of CEOs, founders, and so on, the hardest thing for most of them to do is to actually let go. And it was serendipitous in many ways how this happened. But one of our partners, his name is Joshua, he had a newsletter, and you've heard of the title of this, but it's since been changed because he sold it. a few years back. It's called the 2 Comma Club. If you've ever heard of the 2 Comma Club, can you type yes in the chat window? I'm just curious. Maybe you haven't. All right. So yeah, no big deal if you haven't, Vicky. Thank you for typing that. So he had created the 2 Comma Club, and it was this amazing content newsletter, the 2 Comma Club. And in my business, you know, we were generating hundreds of clients a month. I was like, I want a newsletter, but I'm kind of lazy in some ways. I was like, I don't want to have to write this darn thing. And when I read Joshua's 2 Comma Club, I was like, if I was going to write it, that's what I'd write. It's amazing with the alignment, all the things that Sachin shared about our work together. I felt that way about Joshua's work. So Joshua flies into Arizona. We meet at a Hilton for an afternoon, and we talk about how we could partner. And I've got this distribution of clients, and he's got this amazing newsletter, and we could partner up. And I'm not one to just talk. I'm one to focus on implementation. So literally, not only did we come up and orchestrate the deal in the numbers, but then we got to work and started launching it. Like that afternoon, we had clients buying the 2 Comma Club, literally. And Joshua said, I've never, even today, he's like, dude, like there's nobody who implements like you do in your team. And so we launched and we got a few sales. And so he was very touched at the focus and like the speed at which we went. And he goes, hey, is there something else you need help with? I'm like, well, and this is where I let go. And you know, there's a great quote from a mutual friend of Sachin and mine named Bedros Killy. And he says, you know, my ego is not my amigo. This was one of the first times I felt so vulnerable. I felt naked when I shared this, because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to like kind of admit I'm not hitting a home run right now. And I said, yeah, I'm struggling with this sales letter. And 6 months, and I just haven't been able to crack the code on it. Would you take a look at it? I'd love to get your advice on it. He said, yeah, give me your stuff. So he flies off and he calls me back a few days later. He goes, hey, I got good news, bad news. The good news is I love what you're doing. Like he got a chance to kind of see under the hood of our coaching and our, you know, different resources and all these things we put together. He said, the bad news is if I do this, I want to actually start from scratch. Are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah. He goes, do you want my help? I'm like, I'd love your help. Let's do it. So we launched, and it was amazing what happened in less than 90 days. It did take 90 days, but none of this is overnight. Like, you know, anybody that teaches you it's an overnight success is full of shit, to put it bluntly. Oh, sorry, it's full of crap. And we generated more sales online than our entire team of 20 reps in our office when we launched, right? The day we launched. And then that continued. And before we knew it, we were actually generating over 300 new clients a week. And then we grew that even more with some other programs that we built off of it. We grew to over 1,000 clients a week. And then we grew that newsletter I talked about, 2 Comma Club, to over 5,000 recurring active paid clients a month, right? Which was pretty amazing. Now, what made the difference were some of the things we're going to talk about with you today. We created an irresistible offer, right? So it's the difference between having to sell somebody and people just buying it. That's the power of an irresistible offer. We were positioned as an authority. We learned to build a list of clients and potential clients. We had a conversion model that brought us clients online. In other words, one-to-many instead of one-to-one. And we had a follow-up system to communicate and convert clients daily. The fortune is in the follow-up. If you're just a cool person and you'll just follow up, because most of your competition, let me share something with you. Lean in just a little bit. Most of your competition is too lazy and too cheap to do follow-up. So if you will just be vigilant in your follow-up, you'll be amazed at what you do in your niche, right? And I know Sachin and his team have got some of the best tools in the world for all of these things. And again, ideal, I'm just going to help crystallize some of them to bring all of this to give you more confidence, to give you more clarity, to give you more direction, to give you more like, oh, I can do this. This is my time. I've got this. Sachin, I'm going to be one of your biggest success stories, right? You do have this, and you've got one of the best people in the world to work with, right? For me at that time, when we got this going in 90 days, for me, it felt like I was getting a second chance at life. And boy, how amazing it went. And I went to work, and, you know, I've been blessed to work with some amazing people. I don't know if you know this guy. He was a hypnotist at the time, Talman Knutson. He's translated into a bunch of industries, but we launched in our first 21-day campaign. We did over 95 grand. And over time, we actually did over 7 figures together, many times that over. I got a chance, you know, Sachin brought up Dean Graziosi. This was one campaign that we worked with. His company grew by 3 times and 12 times profit. But we did a 17-day campaign and helped them generate over $350,000 with a campaign model we built with them. And some people look at this like it's a magic trick, right? But it's principle based, right? It's built on a solid foundation. In fact, let me just reveal to you the 4 pillars really quick to focus on in your business from today to eternity. This was applicable 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's still applicable today. 1, position yourself as an authority. 2, generate leads so you can build relationships. 3, get yourself into a place where you can provide education-based value content events, right? Education-based value content events. And number 4, call it the multiplier optimizer effect, right? When you get these 3, now what happens, you start to get excited and you're going to want to probably collapse it. Instead of it taking 6 months to do those first 3 things, you'll probably build a system, an operating system that optimizes, that allows you to be running it every week or even every day at its peak or more. So hopefully you're starting to see some of this for you. For us, this allowed us to help over 200,000 clients, personally coached over 5,000 CEOs and founders in over 180 industries, 11 countries. We grew that business to over 500 grand a week, 100 grand a day, 5-day a week work week. Got to enjoy some dream come true experiences. Richard Branson been on his island a couple times, family stuff, amazing things that, I mean, are dream come true, really. I sold not 1, but 2 companies. And then what happened after selling these companies, people have come to me and go, Dan, can you help me do that? Can you help me do what you've done? And, you know, like one of my favorite people is this young lady, Dr. Christy Lopez. She had a one-to-one practice, right? And we showed her how to create, you know, one-to-many. And, you know, this may seem small, but to me, it's huge because it's a starting point. For her, this was a starting point where we got her a connection. She did a presentation. She got 10 clients in one 90-minute presentation, which would have taken her 6 months to get that amount of new clients in her business. And she's done so many other things. Her and her husband now have this business, which is related to these mini dinosaurs. And she's created a new model, and we'll talk about building your new model. She's created something called a MaaS. Like you might have heard of a SaaS company, software as a service. She's got a museum as a service. Now, it won't make any sense, but if you could think of mini exhibits in museums, her and her husband have created museums as a service, and there's no competition. And it's a unique model, unique method, and a lot more. Bruce, another one of my favorites. Again, like in the bigger picture of some of our clients, they're kind of small, but hopefully these connect with you. It doesn't matter whether you're new, it doesn't matter whether you're someone like Sachin or someone in between. This works. He was overwhelmed by all the tech nonsense. He was following like 9 different experts, and he was stuck. And we said, time out, Bruce, we can simplify this. Long and the short of it, we showed him how to simplify with these 4 pillars. And by the way, I'm just going to make this case right now. Sachin may not call what we do the 4 pillars in his business, but they are the 4 pillars. So you already have this if you just keep plugged in. Keep plugged into what Sachin and his team are showing you. Anyway, Bruce got 39 clients in 30 days for his training and coaching business, and 117 new clients in 90 days after toiling at it for months and months and months before, right? And then also added over $4,500 in recurring revenue. Now, like what does that do for somebody when they get $4,500 extra recurring revenue month, right? How cool is that, right? For most people, that's more than what they would make in a job. Another young lady who has a practice, Stephanie, she's in the beginning process. She was struggling with like 3 clients in her practice. And she admittedly, and we have this on video as well, at some point we could share it with you. She goes, and they weren't even really paying me all the time, right? To growing to over $60,000 in revenue in just a few months, right? And what she loves is all the tools and so on. And, you know, she compared it. She says other people who work in her mental health field don't typically make 60 grand in a year. It's life-changing for some, right? What Sachin is sharing with you is life-changing. Hopefully you're getting a glimpse and you're getting more confidence to go, yes, what I have my hands on here with Sachin and his team is life-changing. It is. So the idea and the focus is to help you get your perfect client blueprint in place so you can get patients and clients daily. So the question I have for you, are you ready? Are you really ready to dive in today and go at this? Because this is going to be immersive. We're going to challenge you to be like really focused on coming up with your message, your offer, and a whole lot more. So are you ready? If you're ready, go ahead and type yes or Shazam or whatever you want in the chat. All right. I'm just going to do a quick check-in. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Everybody good? Can I get a physical thumbs up? All right. All right. So hopefully you get a little context of this, right? And hopefully it gives you a good shell to be thinking of. So now I want to dive into the next strategy here, or I guess what I would call the first official strategy beyond the nine mistakes, which there's a lot of value in avoiding some of those common mistakes that people make. And just give me a minute to cue this up, and I will bring up this next presentation. All right, love tech glitches. Speaking of tech and automation getting in the way, gotta love tech glitches. They're always fun. Geez, what's going on?
That's working now. Now we can see your screen.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. All right, so this segment is how to attract perfect clients with your perfect message, right? Now, why is this important to you right now? Here's something to be thinking about. What is the cost of bad messaging? Right? And it looks like, do you see the slide? What is the cost of bad messaging right now or no?
No, we see how to attract your perfect clients with the perfect message.
All right. Seems like let me see if I can clear this and reset it.
Sure.
Now, I'm curious, what do you all like when you are attending an event? What do you like to drink? I like to drink green tea. I drink a lot of green tea. Drink water, coffee, water. Awesome. Coffee and water. All right. Well, what I forgot to mention context-wise is we will take a break about every 45 minutes or so, or I'm sorry, every hour or so. So we'll go through this presentation as long as it's up and running. And it does not look like this is connecting for some reason. All right, let's try.
We saw your PowerPoint presentation, so that was coming up on our screen.
Okay, I'm going to try something else here.
And then while you're doing that, I'll just reiterate some of the things that you discussed. These are common challenges, right? How many of you could resonate with some of the mistakes or obstacles or challenges that Dan described? And this isn't unique to our profession. So virtually every profession, every CEO, every entrepreneur will encounter some of these internal or external objections that hold them back. And thankfully, the principles of success are universal. So what works in one industry will also work in our industry. One thing I've always said is that functional medicine doesn't have a clinical problem, right? We've kind of cracked that nut. I would think that I would imagine we might have different ways of doing things on an individual basis, but I believe that each and every one of you could improve somebody's quality of life, right? I think we can all agree with that. So we've cracked that nut. The nut that we haven't cracked is marketing and business principles and the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. And Buddy shared a post the other day about how he had a client sign up 3 years after coming to one of his workshops. This is common occurrence. It's going to happen all the time. I look at every person I encounter as a future client. At some point, health will be their number one priority, and I will be their number one choice. So when we commit to the long game and we stay committed to our craft, we continue to build rapport and respect and trust with these people and remain as the most obvious choice, it'll be their desire to work with you. So, sometimes a no is a not now, and you just got to keep following up, right? And we have an obligation to make sure that we follow up or make sure that they've found a solution. And hopefully it's us, but if it isn't us, then at least they're moving their health and quality of life in the right direction. All right, Dan, I see your screen. Looks like it's working now. We're good to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay, beautiful.
All right. So how to attract your perfect clients with the perfect message, right? Why is this important to you right now? The cost of bad messaging, right? Think about that. What's the cost of bad messaging or average message, or being thought of like everybody else in your area, right? Or in your niche. And this is a good clip to kind of think about the power of a good message, right? So check this out.
It's as simple as e pluribus unum, from many, one. From many shades of lipstick, one that belongs to her. From a basket of kisses, she picks one. It makes her unique. It colors her kiss. And her kiss, well, it colors her man. Belle Jolie lipstick. Mark your man.
I only see one lipstick in your drawing. Women want colors. Lots and lots of colors.
Mark your man. It's pretty cute.
Oh, you like this? Well, maybe we should cut down to 5 shades or 1.
I'm not telling you to listen to anyone, but this is a very fresh approach.
It's okay, Kenny. I don't think there's much else to do here, but call it a day. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Is that all?
You're a non-believer. Why should we waste time on kabuki?
I don't know what that means.
It means that you've already tried your plan and you're number 4. You've enlisted my expertise and you've rejected it to go on the way you've been going. I'm not interested in that. You can understand.
I don't think your 3 months or however many thousands of dollars entitles you to refocus the core of our business.
Listen, I'm not here to tell you about Jesus. You already know about Jesus. Either he lives in your heart or he doesn't. Every woman wants choices. But in the end, none wants to be one of 100 in a box. She's unique. She makes the choices and she's chosen him. She wants to tell the world he's mine. He belongs to me, not you. She marks her man with her lips. He is her possession. You've given every girl that wears your lipstick the gift of total ownership.
Sit down.
No.
I see the chats coming in. I love that scene from that, right? It's at the end of the day about being unique. It's about your message. And also from the other side of it, if you don't have a patient or a client who believes you can help them, don't get in the convincing business. Create a compelling offer. He was willing to walk away, be detached. So a lot of the mistakes actually was summed up in that visual, that little 3-minute clip or whatever it was. So hopefully you got some good value from that. So we're going to show you how you can get your unfair advantage with what we refer to as the 3x3x3 framework in your messaging. Because do you ever wonder, like, I don't know about you, obviously with COVID, it's been a little bit different. But if you walk through the mall, right? Do you ever look at some of these weird, obscure stores like I do and go, how does that hat store even stay in business? Or how does that button store or these weird, obscure items, right? It's interesting. The purpose of this segment is to help you avoid being a statistic. And I know Sachin wants that for you as well. See, what if your clients, what if your partners, what if your vendors, what if your team knew you were unique and they could easily tell your story to your potential clients, to others more easily, right? The problem with that is most of the time, our team, our vendors, our partners, our clients are not on the same page because we haven't basically made it easy enough. So we're going to help you solve that. They don't know how to describe what you really do easily. It's like, oh, Homer Simpson. They're not sure. I just know I like them. Like, for example, imagine like your perfect clients out at dinner tonight. And they're thinking of you because you've provided them amazing value. and you say, I want to tell you about Dr. Vicky. I want to tell you about Dr. Dave or you. But then they go, well, yeah, tell me about him. And they're like, well, I just know I like him. Well, what if you actually had a way where they would be able to tell your unique story or your unique benefit or your unique message in a simple, easy way? You can do this, right? And it does a lot of things for you when you do, right? So I want to give you a couple examples real quick. Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware, if you think about Ace Hardware, did you know they have over 4,500 independent stores across the country, right? In North America, over 4,500 independent stores. What makes them unique? Do you know what makes Ace Hardware unique? First of all, they're owned by independent owners, right? They are focused on local in markets and they're community driven, right? Which is very different than the big box stores or the retailers and big box digital type companies online, right? Now, there was an interview done with John Van Huysen, which I pulled the transcript, my team pulled the transcript of, and they asked him, he said there was one word that changed our company. One word changed their company. One single word. And that word is preservation, right? Versus what all the big box companies focus on, renovation. Think about that. Preservation of the home versus, or property, versus renovation of the property, right? Distinctions make a difference. One word, right? It helped focus their team, their vendors, their stakeholders and clients, and it can help you if you get this right. Ford recently has gone through something like this. They recognize the future of cars, automobiles, the auto industry is actually ride sharing. So what are they doing about it? Now they're really focusing on selling trucks and SUVs in North America, right? Another company, Accoy. This company is a bike manufacturer in France. They shifted their focus from bicycling with COVID. They shifted to indoor riding, stay-at-home cycling, and virtual trainings. And now they've not only been able to survive, but they've been able to thrive by thinking outside of the box. What makes them unique compared to anybody else? So how does this apply to you? How does it apply to you? Give you the ability to adapt and pivot to shifts in the market. Don't get attached. Essentially, you want to listen to what your clients say, what your clients want. Not what they need. That's probably more what you want. How many of you have ever heard the old adage, find a need and what? Fill it. One of the other big mistakes, I should have that as a 10th mistake. That's a huge one. Because when we focus on what clients need, it's our perception of what they need. Better is to find what our clients want. Right? My friend Joshua calls this find the aholics in your niche. Find aholics in your niche and you can get rich in your niche. Right? Find the aholics, people who want or hungry, insatiably hungry for your chocolate, for your strawberries, for your strawberry chocolate. Are you getting hungry now? Anyway, what they want. Some of you probably go, I don't like chocolate and strawberries. Anyway, what's wrong with you if that's the case? Anyway, no. So when someone asks you, what do you do? Yeah, you're at a networking event, you're in an elevator, you're asked, what do you do? What do you say? Or maybe they ask you or someone on your team, what do you want conveyed? What do you want conveyed? Have you intentionally structured this, engineered it? Essentially, that's what this is, an engineering process. Have you made it so it's compelling versus convincing? So I want you to write these down. This is an exercise. Let's dive in together here, if we will. Write these down. So here's what I want you to do. Write down, what is your audacious purpose and why do you do what you do? Right? What's your audacious purpose and why do you do what you do? Write it down. Now, by the way, I'm going to give you some examples here in a few minutes. So if you're starting to feel, oh, well, I know you might not know, but if you did know, what would you say is the why you do what you do? What's your purpose? Okay. Take 20 seconds. Next, what is the transformation you provide to your clients? Right? What's the transformation? What do you give them? You know, think of it in terms of the metamorphosis that a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly, the before and the after. So when they come into you, write a word, a trigger word or two that they're suffering with what pain? They're suffering with what trauma? A lot of this is related to trauma. Suffering from what trauma? Think of it in those terms. What's the trauma they were facing? And then when they work with you, they walk out with what is that transformation? What is that breakthrough? Take about 20 seconds to fill in your sheet. And by the way, I'm going to probably ask a couple of you after we take a break to share a couple of yours, just because it'll help others get context on this and make it even better for everybody. What are the emotions? This is a great exercise. Anytime you put out any messaging, what's the feeling or emotion you want to convey in them? Right? So what are the emotions and feelings that your breakthrough provides your clients? Right? What do they feel? So that they come in with the trauma, they're working with you and they get this breakthrough or transformation. What is it? And now what is the emotion attached to it? Right? This is about linking. You know, I've heard certain experts describe it as really the business we're in is the transference of emotions. Right? Tony Robbins teaches a framework, which is a story, or state, story, strategy. Right? People come in with a state, right? And the state determines everything. Their story is what kind of keeps them in a state or can move them. And then what's the strategy if we have to pivot it, right? So what are the emotions that are tied to the feelings that you provide your clients? Next, what's the big problem you solve for your clients, right? What's that one main big problem you solve for your clients, right? So for example, in our business, ours is we help our clients get clients daily and build an operating system for their sales and marketing to do that. And that gives them freedom and most of the time hypergrowth, right? So what's the big problem you solve better than anybody else in the world? And if that's too big to be thinking about, too grander, that just might mean that one of those mistakes we talked about, a little bit of that, questioning whether I'm good enough. When I said that, some of you had a reflex. And I did that on purpose, right? Because I want you to feel that. You can be the best in the world. In the world. Own that. In the world. All right. So just for today, if you want to go, okay, what do I do better than anybody else around? You could stay, keep it there for now. But I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to I know Sachin's going to challenge you to focus on being the best in the world at what you do over time. But we got to start somewhere. In order to get from where we are to where we want to go, we have to have a good starting point. So at least the starting point. What is the big problem you solve better than anyone else around you right now? Maybe in your market. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Now we want to help you make this story even better. Right? Going to help you make this story out. So we want to map it out and what, it's just kind of a way to think about it, alliteration of 3 by 3 by 3, right? So again, step one, now I want to challenge you to think about what is the purpose, why you do what you do, right? Step two, what will that do for them? Go ahead and write that down, right? So again, step one, what's the purpose of what you're doing? Step two, what will that do for them? And again, I've got a couple examples here. We're going to kind of bring this all together so that, I literally want you walking out today. One of my missions is your message is better than it's ever been today as a result of our time. And what will that do for them? And step three, what will that give them at an emotional level? What will that give them at an emotional level? Right? Now, you might be stuck on the emotions, maybe not. Some of you may be, some of you may not. So one of the frameworks we love is Tony Robbins' 6 Human Needs on emotions. And there's a bunch out there. Of course, you've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then I believe a guy named Brendan Burchard, he has a version and all kinds of different variations that are out there. But Tony's are pretty simple. So you've got certainty and uncertainty. You've got significance. You've got love. You've got growth. And you've got contribution. Right? Certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, growth, contribution. In Tony's model, he believes contribution is the highest value need that we aspire to live in, but without the basic needs of certainty, right? Which Maslow, calls the basic necessities or refers to those, right? So what are the emotional outcomes that your service provides your patients or your clients, right? Really work to connect the dots. And again, we're going to bring this together. A couple samples right now. Genius Network, which is a client, which is ultimately indirectly how Sachin and I came to meet, right? Their why, real simple. Joe said, my focus is to reduce suffering for entrepreneurs. And Joe was walking around saying this for decades before literally owning it for the crystallization of their message to actually build Genius Network. When they did, it really had a significant impact. And then we had people interview clients. This is another great exercise. Interview a handful of your best favorite clients and ask them, why do you like working with us? What do you get the most from us? What does it give you? What is it doing for you? And what we heard in those interviews, and actually we had a guy named Jay Abraham do those interviews. And so we heard a theme: Joe helps us reduce suffering, right? It just kept coming up over and over and over and over again, right? So what is your why, right? It could be as simple as something like that. Eliminate trauma. 4, fill in the blank, because many of you have all kinds of specialties you work in. And now going back to the example with community of high achieving business owners that come together to connect, collaborate, and contribute. So there's the 3, right? So here's the why, then here's the main 3 key things: connect, collaborate. And, by the way, these were the 3 things that Joe owned. And then also that when clients were interviewed, these were the 3 things that kept coming up over and over and over and over again, right? And then you kind of can put it in a sentence. So you've got the why: reduce suffering, connect, collaborate, contribute, right? What does it give you? The ability to connect, collaborate, and contribute. Now you just add the who around it. Who is it for? Community of high achieving business owners. And they want to get to the next level, right? So ideally you start to see how this 3 by 3 by 3 framework comes together. Next, that gives them the opportunity to here's 3 things: create opportunities, strategic partnerships, joint ventures, and more. Right? That gives them the opportunity to create opportunities, strategic partnerships, joint ventures, and more. And what that gives them, here's the last 3: clarity, freedom, and direction. Clarity, freedom, and direction. Those are the emotional benefits, right? Again, hopefully you can see how this is being stacked like a 3 by 3 cube, like this cube right here, right? I'll talk more about this later. 3 by 3 by 3 cube. So by the way, you may build a business version of this, and you might even decide to build a personal version, like who you are. Like when you write a book, which is one of a great positioning strategies at some point down the road. I know for some of you, it freaks you out. You don't have to write a book by any means, but if you decide to write a book, when you put in there, like, why are you doing what you're doing? This 3 by 3 by 3 framework will come in handy to simplify what you do for your clients. Again, this is in their words. This is the benefit to them, right? So another one, we deconstructed Sachin's and Living Proofs, right, for perfect practice. So why? We help up and coming functional medicine practitioners and health coaches build a practice you love with love. How cool is that, by the way? You probably all know that because they live by that. Build a practice you love with love, right? What does it give you? It gives you clarity, confidence, and a collaborative community so you can enjoy the 5 freedoms, right? Sachin couldn't just do 3. He had to have 5. He wanted to go big. He wanted to own the world. 5 freedoms: health, emotional, time, geographic, and financial freedom, right? Now, again, many of you probably knew that, but if you didn't know that and you're hearing this and you're already in his world, you're in his world because of this, probably. This is the alignment. This is who Sachin is. This is the DNA of him, his wife, his staff, his entire team of people that are supporting you and doing what you're doing. Now, I went through that fairly quickly, so I'm going to repeat it again because I really want you to tune in to the alignment of why you might be here, right? He's helping you build a practice you love with love. And it's going to give you clarity, confidence, and a collaborative community. Ideally, this is one example. Basically, he hired me to help share insights with you today, right? Oh, and by the way, some of you might still be going, is this guy going to sell me something today? Here's what I've got to sell you. And only one main thing. And that's your bigger future. And your bigger future with Sachin and his company. I've got nothing for sale, right? He made the investment in me to you to just come here and show up and give you everything I got in a couple hours. Is that fair enough, by the way? That's him demonstrating this right here. Help you build a practice with love, from love, right? So you can get clarity, confidence, direction, and enjoy the 5 freedoms: health, emotional, time, geographic, and financial, right? Now, hopefully you're getting these couple examples and you're scripting yours out right now and writing it down, not just sitting back, right? So let's review this. So your purpose and why. Like, what is your purpose and why? Ideally, you're getting excited about that. And again, not in just your words, but for your clients. The next time someone asks you for a bio, right, I would encourage you to give them this as the starting point of that bio, not all the other basically nonsense that are in bios, because most bios suck, just to put it bluntly, right? What do people want to know? They want to know how you help them. In other words, how do you help them go from the trauma, the pain, the suffering they've got to the breakthrough? That's what they want to know. I would lead with that 99.2% of the time. Okay. And then follow that up, because many of you have some of the most amazing credentials in the world that are amazing, which is great supporting. But the main thing your clients want to know from you is, how do you help them? This is a easy, simple way that not only you can be conditioned easily and really flesh this out, but then you can condition your team, even virtual, part-time, spare time, virtual teams. You can train your clients, you can train your stakeholders. It makes it so much easier for a lot of things, which I'll cover. Purpose and why. What's the transformation? What are the key 3 things that your transformation provides, right? What are the key 3 things? What are the emotional benefits? The 3 main emotional benefits you give your client. What's that fuel that you give them, right? What's that infusion that you give them of emotional benefits, right? What's the big problem you solve? What's the big problem you eliminate, right? What's the big problem you solve? So what is it? Write it down. Hopefully you got it. And again, you're kind of going through this, and I'm going kind of quick, but ideally we're doing this, as you see this, I'm really repeating kind of the similar thing to flesh it out 2 or 3 times. Like, this isn't just me sharing. This is a workshop style. What is it? What will it do for you? Right? Here's what it is. Here's what it will do for you. What that means for you is, right? What does it mean to you? What will that give you? Now, the next time, by the way, you're at a networking meeting, you're in an elevator, you're in a hallway, you're wherever you might be, and someone says, hey, Dr. Vicky, hey, Dr. Bill, hey, what do you do? For all of you, instead of immediately unleashing your new messaging to your person, this person asking you, who's curious and fascinated by you, instead of actually answering, here's what I want you to do. And I want you to test this for the next 90 days and report back to Sachin what the results are. And here's what I ask you to do. So the next time you're asked, what do you do? I want you to turn it into a question and start with, well, do you know how a lot of practitioners struggle with building a practice that has a big impact? Well, yeah, what I do is, and now you go into your 3x3x3 description. You will find that when you do this by asking the question related to the biggest problem your industry faces, right? And I just made one up, by the way, right? For our business, when people say, well, what do you know how a lot of people, a lot of founders and CEOs struggle to get a steady flow of clients daily and also get out of the day-to-day? Do you know how many people lean in on that? Even if they're not my perfect client, they'll lean in, they'll go, oh yeah, almost everybody. That's partially what you want. That's the difference between, because have you ever been in a networking meeting where everybody's doing their thing and it's like white noise? Nobody's listening. But when you ask the question, by the way, you'll be the one person of 40 people in a room if you're ever in that type of exercise or environment, or 10 people, whatever it is, or even one-on-one. If you just go, well, you know how a lot of people struggle with pain in their neck, right? I'm just making it up. Yeah, well, they're going to lean in. You pulled them in. It's a little nuance that makes such a big difference. By the way, this messaging we're going through, you want to go on your website, you want to check in and see where is it on your website and look to reframe your website. You might consider reframing your emails this way. You might consider reframing your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile with this type of focus. All right. So do you know how stake the big problem your clients face? What we do is the solution to the big problem, right? You know, I gave Sachin's example and the Genius Network example. There's hundreds of others. Hopefully you're writing yours. I'd love to see your example soon. And when you get this right, I want you to imagine what this will do when it's on your website, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, all of it's congruent, in alignment, that again is speaking to the core problem your client has, but you're just by putting the question framework around it, you're already showing empathy more than your other competitors who are just fire hosing them with, oh, we do this and we provide that. You're showing empathy by asking. It's a little thing, right? God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Why? To be listening. Part of listening is actually asking questions, right? It's a little thing, but it'll make a huge difference. Imagine what it'll do for you in your clinic, your practice, right? What we have found from this, working with so many different clients in so many different niche industries, it gets more referrals, more patients, clients, sales, and more profits, as well as give you the ability to have a bigger impact, a bigger reach, and have a bigger contribution in the world. If that's what you want, apply it. If that's not what you want, well, no harm, no foul. Now, by the way, we're going to take a break here in a few minutes. Again, here's some tips to maximize your results with everything we're sharing today. Everything you need to get results is in your Perfect Practice mentorship, including tools, templates, right? All kinds of things that Sachin and his team provide you. If you need additional help implementing some of this, right, one-on-one, talk with Sachin's team about some of the options available. Is that fair enough with everybody? All right, I'm going to do a quick check-in. How many of you have gotten some good insight so far this morning? Awesome. How many of you refined your message? Yes? All right, here's what I would like to propose to do. I'd like you to type your message in the chat window, right? And then based on who submits, Phil, and I'll talk about who is Phil in a little bit. I'm definitely not going to leave that out. We'll close that loop. But Phil, who's basically the head of operations for my company, director of operations, and a whole lot more, as a friend, and we've known each other for almost a couple decades. Phil is going to read those, and he's going to randomly pick a couple, and then I'm going to have him texting me, and we're going to call out a couple of you to share it publicly, because I want others to hear a couple more examples beyond the couple we have already done. Is that fair enough with everybody? So if you want to play big, type those in the chat window for everybody to see. And again, this is not a judgment. This is a safe culture, as you know, a safe environment, a safe place where we all can get better. So also, don't judge yourself. We're not judging it. We want to just help you get better and make this better too. We'll take a 5-minute break. Does that sound fair, everybody? We'll take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 18 minutes after the hour, depending on where you're at in the country. So we'll be back 18 minutes. We'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Out in the sun, your heartbeat of solid gold. You'll never know.
Always see the dangers first. Always protect your feet. You always be ready for cold. Always be ready for heat. Always know where good water resource is. rest whenever you can. Always see the dangers first. Always protect your feet. You'd always be ready for cold. Always be ready for heat. Always know where good water source is. Always master the skills necessary. Always get the job done. Always know your place. Always disallow foolishness. And always rest whenever you can.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So real quick, because there's a great principle you've probably learned from Sachin, and or will learn a more advanced version of this, which is Pearson's Law. How many have heard of Pearson's Law? If you've heard of Pearson's Law, you can either raise your hand if you're on camera, or you can type yes in the chat window. If not, no big deal. What's Pearson's Law? He says, Pearson's Law is anything measured improves. Anything measured improves, right? Anything measured and then reported improves exponentially. I hope that's a big aha for your business, by the way. Start focusing on what could you measure daily. Excuse me. Start measuring daily as far as what you do. You will be amazed if you focus on measuring daily and reporting it, or having your team report to you, how performance goes up. We find this with our young athletes as well, right? When they're lifting or they're running, they're reporting the results, right? And or we're measuring the results in both. So we like to do measurement. So I would love to get your feedback really quick. On a scale of 1 being low, 10 being high, and the highest rating, where would you rate that last segment that we covered together? 1 low, 10 high. I'd love to see what you type in. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Man, lots of 11s, 20s, 10s. Thank you, guys. Thank you. This is just a reflection, by the way, of this community, Sachin, and you, right? So, so in many ways, it's a mirror. All right, with that in mind, Phil, I just want to tell you a little bit about Phil, who's been working with me in this company for, coming up on a year now. And we've known each other for 20 years. So Phil and I met when I had a coaching business many years ago, and he got a product of mine. He was struggling in his business, and he had worked with a bunch of different experts. It hadn't quite worked out. In fact, he had spent thousands of hours to make, I believe he mentioned that he made like $9 and some change after like 6 to 9 months of thousands of hours of commitment and focus and work. And he was kind of ready, like, oh, this is my last chance kind of thing. And he got started with us, and we started working together. In a handful of months, he was able to get to over 5 figures a month. He had his first 5-figure month, and then that carried forward, and he had his best Christmas and holiday season that he had ever had in his life. And then he went on to just escalate that, advance that, multiply it, maximize it. He built a couple of companies. He had an IT business, and then he had a media business where at his peak, they built a subscriber list. If you can kind of imagine this, going from nothing, struggling, to ultimately building a media business where daily they were sending out 17 million emails a day. Not to the same person, by the way. Hopefully that was kind of funny. But it was, that would be kind of funny. That would be called spam. But he had over 15 to 17 million subscribers on his email list, hundreds of thousands of customers, right? I mean, amazing. And then he ended up exiting that business. He also had an IT business. So Phil brings this operations mindset. He's got a unique capability of being an entrepreneur, but also the operations. So we decided to collaborate. And so I'm like this Imagineer, which is a Disney term, or a visionary type person, quick start. And I make stuff up I make messes, frankly, and he makes it real, right? He turns those messes into some amazing things. So he's an incredible asset and a wealth of knowledge. And I look back now and go, how did I operate the last 10 years without Phil? Like, it's kind of crazy. So Phil, if you just want to pick two random people to share their unique message, I'd love you to just scroll through the chat because there's a lot of feedback, and my ADD brain is going to be real hard. I'll have to literally just focus and go line by line to actually check it out. So if you don't mind, if you could pull that out, I'd love to just ask, while Phil's doing that, and we get a couple people to share yours publicly on screen. Does anybody have any questions of anything we've covered up to this point? We covered the mistakes. Now we've covered the messaging and the layering for that. Any questions that have popped up? If so, you can just chime in. This is a conversation. This is, us working together here. Anybody have any questions? If you have a question.
I did want to make a comment, Dan.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for a great opening session. That was awesome. A couple things as I'm reading through these is some of you might be getting stuck that this might not sound natural as you're having that conversation, because you don't want that first question to be a run-on question or run-on sentence. So keep it simple, get them drawn in, and then explain maybe some of those other nuances. But you might even say, do you know how cancer patients go to the cancer treatment doctors fearing and dreading every appointment? You might not say it that way at a barbecue, right? So try to get it honed in and dialed in. So it's saying as few words as possible to get to the question mark. The question mark is what hooks the brain.
Yep.
So not the words, it's the question mark that hooks the brain. And then the words are the brain is like, oh, what did they just say? Because they asked me a question, I've got to answer it. So just try to get it as organic as you can. That would be some of my constructive input, because that was hard for me. It was like, when I first heard this, I was like, I would never say it that way. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to say it that way. I could say it quicker and shorter. So thank you.
Yes. And oh, by the way, speaking of someone, another great trait about Sachin is he leads by example. And you'll see here that this is one of a few different sites he has, but this website opens with a question. Are you finally ready to build your perfect practice? Let us show you how to create a practice with clarity, confidence, and a collaborative community. So literally, that's a version of this perfect message as the lead into the site to pull someone into the rest of it. And now he gets to the emotional benefits, by the way, key to health, emotional, time, geographic, and financial freedoms. As you work with Sachin, you may hear him refer to these as the 5 freedoms, right? So how cool is that? That literally the person that we're learning from is also doing what we're talking about. And you can see a live example, like this isn't a screenshot or something Photoshop. This is literally, if you go to the site, this is what you see, right? That's pretty cool, right? So what he's saying is keep it simple. Notice how simple this is. Let us show you how to create a practice with clarity, confidence, and collaborative community. The mentorship is your key to health, emotional, time, geographic, and financial freedom. Notice also, it's all about you. Are you finally? Let us show you how to. Your key, right? These are some of the key points on top of what Sachin just shared. So good stuff. So no questions popping up otherwise. All right. So Phil, do you have one or two that you just want to call out and they can come on? I'd love them to read theirs. And we'll get a couple samples here. Carol Lamar. Where's Carol? Carol, are you on?
I'm on.
Awesome. Go ahead, take a shot. Let's hear yours. And we'll also, by the way, if you're okay with it, if we can help you make it better, are you okay if we coach you?
Yes, I'm okay with it. I got nervous when you called my name. Okay, so let me see. I wrote it on my phone and then I shared it into the chat.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can find it. I got nervous. I'm sorry. Okay.
I can read that off if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
So, well, do you know how people just don't feel good and are generally dissatisfied with where they are in life? We help busy people get simple, natural solutions unique to them so that they can feel better, look better, and attract better. We help them get unstuck by providing a loving space, community, accountability, and a plan that works. Why? Because we healed ourselves and we want to help others do the same.
If this is the first time you've done that exercise, that's amazing. Like, it took me years to finally get a decent one. So there's a lot of really, really great elements there. What I would say is that you could simplify this, right? And narrow it down to like three key parts, three emotional benefits, kind of like what we just showed you with Sachin's, right? If you look at his framework, how could you model that to keep it that simple? As far as the opening, Phil, read the opening line again.
Okay, where to go? Do you know how people just don't feel good and are generally dissatisfied with where they are in life?
So I would shift that, Carol. It's a little bit too open-ended, right? And I would narrow down, like, for example, one of our clients who is a guru to like alternative doctors with stem cell therapy, right? Their version is, and they teach this to their doctors, a version of this. So do you know how a lot of middle-aged men and women struggle with neck and back pain? Right? We have a natural alternative to help relieve back pain in 60 days or less. Like, they have a version like that. It's a little simpler and not as open-ended, right? So what would you describe as your breakthrough you provide for clients? Speak to me.
The general, when we talk about what is the general pain point, then the primary pain point is I just don't feel good. And so it's like that just kept coming up, like, what made you go to the doctor? Well, I just didn't feel good. And that's a very general complaint, but that's just the one that we heard over and over.
Okay.
And we were having a hard time breaking that down into something else other than that was what we just kept hearing.
And then what is the breakthrough solution you provide or alternative?
So what we provide is a loving space for the person to get real about where they are and what's going on with them, and then give them the tools to help them start to feel better. And once they begin to feel better and look better, then they can start talking about what they want. We find that our clients don't even, when we start talking about, well, what are your dreams and goals? They're not even there. So we just want to get them to feeling better.
Yep.
And we do that by doing the things that we know with the food and the de-stress and all of those things, but we don't even get into what that is, I guess, till later.
Okay. Got it. So what is the age demographic type of the person that is coming to you going, I don't feel good?
So my sister and Carla, she's also in the group. We have joined our practices, and my demographic was a 35 to 45, whereas hers would be 45 to 55. And so our ideal client avatars are Ava and Eva, and Eva is just an older version of Ava.
So it is a female, right?
Yeah, it is a female, but we do live in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia area. And so we didn't want to specialize to women because in our demographic, gender is not as forward as doing people. Gender, when you gender things, it's actually less appealing, I guess I could say.
Okay. And the only way to know, like, from a marketing advertising point of view, as I view it, is to test that. But what I have found many times, actually, by narrowing down you actually expand out. So like our
Right.
our primary type of clients are thought leaders, right? Who want to grow like their coaching, their mastermind, or some type of consulting practice. But we also work with doctors who have a stem cell practice. We also have a big CPA firm. But by narrowing, we have people who find their way to us outside of that narrowed niche. Like we don't close that off. It actually seems for like not only us, but also a lot of our clients to open up the opportunity. So I might recommend testing something like, and then I'm going to ask Sachin, because him and his team work with you, probably have another perspective on this in a second to kind of refine this for you and give you some good value walking away. Something like, do you know how a lot of women, middle-aged women, are suffering from everyday chronic aches and pains? How does that strike you when I say that about your audience? Again, you know your audience better. I'm just also doing this off the cuff.
If I was talking to, okay, so I guess when you talk about audience, if I'm in a formal setting, then I would, and I'm giving a talk, then my language would be different than, as Sachin said, at a barbecue or amongst my network. And so that language changes, of course. Yep. But so if I was amongst my network at a barbecue, I would say, do you know how people just have a lot of pain and they, or when I would start off with saying, what do you know how when you get older, people expect you to have more pain, or how it hurts when you get out of the bed in the morning? They'll be like, oh yeah, I can understand that. So, and then I could go on into more than likely, I'm in the South again, so it would quickly become a conversation about the other person, as it usually does. And I just end up saying, well, we've come up with a plan to help people feel better, look better in their clothes. And once you begin to look and feel better, then you start to get the things that you really want in life. And so it really becomes the conversation, the verbal conversation is different than the copy and messaging that we put out in our media and that will be in our media kit.
Well, and I won't disagree with that. What I would encourage you to do is to continue to work on refining this.
Yes.
So you have a lot of good elements, but here's the truth as a guide and a mentor.
Okay.
It's too busy. You're all over the place, just to call it out, right? You need to narrow it down to simplify. Quit trying to be all things to all people, because when we're all things to all people, we chase people away. Yep.
Right.
So to your point, different markets have different contexts, and so there are slight nuances, but I would look at Sachin's website, the way he's done it, and notice like it's so simple, so darn simple. Like and it's not a run on 9 paragraphs. It's like 3 sentences, right? So you can narrow this down to 3 sentences, and you can get it on your website, you can get it on social media, and you can also get into conversations where this is a natural conversation at a barbecue, right? So again, to your point, there are a little bit of the nuances, but I think you've got a really good foundation. Sachin, anything that you want to add to this?
Yeah, thanks. I wrote something down, Carol, for what it's worth, that might be helpful. And you can, and in many ways, I agree with Dan. I think that there's so much that we do for people, but we have to make sure we're hitting on the right buttons, especially when we're trying to just remember people's attention spans are short, and they don't necessarily have the wherewithal to connect the dots how we do, right? Sometimes connecting those dots might require more context for them. So we want to kind of speak their language and what's familiar with them. They might not understand the benefits of a healing space or a loving space or self, like some of these things might be new language to the person, right? So we have to go to the unaware and speak to the unaware at the top of the funnel with our message. And then we move to the middle of the funnel, and then our message becomes a little bit more specific, right? So here's what I wrote down for you for what it's worth. And I can type it up for you too. So I wrote, you know how people leave the doctor's office with more confusion or being told everything's normal? Well, we help them find answers when they don't feel well and teach them how to heal themselves through self-love and natural solutions. We're here to help people feel good again in a loving space.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Yep.
Is that good?
That's awesome. Because one thing that you guys have opened up my mind to is we have our ideal client, but we were kind of still scaling for our local market and not a global market. And so this is real, these exercises just have been so important to me because they've just opened up my mind to the possibilities. We've considered working with, even though we've gone virtual, I think in our mind, we're still brick and mortar. And so when you go virtual, you're really talking about global. And so these exercises are helping us think globally. And I just appreciate that so much. And thank you, Sachin. That's beautiful. I can't wait to get it in writing, please.
I'm doing it right now. My pleasure.
Okay.
Oh, and by the
Thank
way,
you.
we're not done helping all of you refine your message either. We're getting into the next segment here, which is one of the favorites, which is building your irresistible offer, which ties this together. So in this unique four-step unique MO process too, Carol. So I think you're gonna love it. So thank you
so much.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Phil, you've got another one. You just want to call it out verbally versus text?
Yeah, Trisha M.
Trisha, you gonna join us? Trisha?
I had a feeling.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You want to share yours with us?
Yeah, I'll just have to pull it up because I also typed it in a different spot.
Okay.
Do you know how a lot of teens struggle with anxiety and depression and have no strategies? Oh, something just popped up in my way. Strategies are coping mechanisms to help them get out of feeling this way. They can end up making decisions out of pain instead of knowing and owning 100% of who they are and thriving, leading to happiness and confidence.
Wow. So this is a very personal one for me. So number one, you've got a big mission to help a lot of young girls and boys, probably. I think what I would encourage you to do as well is to simplify it a bit. Being a dad with a teenage daughter that is going through what you probably a solution you provide. I would just, do you know how there are a lot of teens who are struggling with anxiety and depression? Right. And cut it right there. I think that's all you need.
Okay.
I think a parent, I think it's family and so on that will connect with that message, and then you can go into your unique solution.
Okay.
So I would just chop it to be very much simpler. Anxiety and depression. I think that's going to hit at the core. At least I have a teenage daughter who's got some pretty serious things that we're dealing with. I won't go into the details, but it is personal, and I will and have connected to that simple message in a lot of resources I've gotten as of the last several months and other things. So, and I'm just going to say from me to you personally, because this is very personal, is man, go help these kids. Yep. So let's see if we can refine it a little bit for you, right? So can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much to put in. Now you're saying simple, because I do have people who have gone to therapy and they have given them nothing but just like the talk part of it, but nothing to really help them. And then I've helped a few young women, and they didn't stick with the strategies. And one actually turned to drugs. And then she had a problem. Not a true overdose, but she had like a lot of problems that took her like a long time to get over neurologically. And so now she's doing better, but I just wanted to try to get to people or children and teens before they got to that stage, because there's a lot of things that can help with that. And even people who have anxiety attacks, to either completely stop them from having it or sorry, I should have put that on silent. Stop them from having, or once they get it, it doesn't last long, which I've dealt with people. So I had a few tears because it's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I mean, so the other thing with this is you may have different types of services that apply. This also kind of pertain to Carol, depending on what you're offering. That the hook question that hooks the brain can be different. So you kind of think of, instead of like trying to get all one, I'm trying to get all one services, kind of break them out into different ones, and then you have different ones for each, right? But you want to focus, for most of you that are newer in your businesses, is focus on your main core offer, which again will make more sense when we get into the irresistible offer. But like, for example, one that pops up for me is, do you know some pre-teenagers that are showing signs of anxiety and depression? What we do is we help you get ahead of the curve as a parent, as a family member, to give them the simple tools that last, right? That could be one. Another one might be, do you know of teenagers who have tried lots of things or tried traditional therapy for anxiety and depression? What we do, we have a natural solution, a natural alternative, a unique solution, not available anywhere else the way we deliver it, that gives them peace, freedom, and transformation, right? That's like a super simple one.
Awesome.
Right. How does that strike you? You know, kind of those two framings for you.
That's great. I didn't actually know what you were talking about at first when you were saying the different. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble with my head right now because I have concussion symptoms. But yeah, so I wasn't following what you were saying so I can't remember even what you said with the different programs. Maybe you said. And yeah,
so you may have two different markets that are your perfect markets.
I might actually have three, because I want to also target young adults who are struggling with the same thing because they think that they need to keep doing drugs. I'm struggling right now with one of my nieces. So she wants to move in with me because she knows I've helped her in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, and so a couple things, and that may be true, right? So if that's the case, that could be like a third pocket or third market.
Yeah.
And then you can have each of these, again, start with the hook question for each one. And then for all of you, just keep this in mind. Sometimes we say, and I don't know that this will apply because we don't know each other well enough. I don't know enough about your business from this perspective. And then I'll ask Sachin to jump in here too for your unique message. And that is, be careful when we say, I want to offer this, I want to offer that. What I like to do, and what I've seen work best with our clients, is what the market tells us they want, not what I want, right? So, and a way to really know that, like for me, this might sound a little crude to some degree, but the vote that matters for what I'm going to make available is when people pay money for it. Like, I don't care about opinions. I don't care about feedback. I don't care about like whether someone liked it, commented on it on a post. What I care about is someone actually wrote a check or paid for it, right? And then, because for most businesses, one of the other mistakes, I think we covered it, but maybe not, is having a core offer to build off of, right? Now, in the beginning, if some of you are more new, you might have to test to ultimately find like where your pocket is. But if you spread yourself too thin and go this market, that market, this market, that market, what ends up happening is you dilute your energy and you can't serve at your very best. So initially test, like here's something, this is an advanced strategy. And for some of you, this may be a little bit over the top, but bear with it. One of the strategies we do with our clients regularly is when we're going to run anything. So let's say we're going to run a webinar, we're going to run a workshop, whether we're going to run a clinic, whether we're going to write a book, whether we're going to put out a tool out in the marketplace, we will go online and use a tool like Facebook, and we will test the titles, right? And then because you can get to your interest groups and so on, demographics in there, we'll test like 10 different versions to let the market tell us what is the one to pick or the higher probability to pick, right? So be careful of spreading yourself out too much, and also beware of like, I want, make sure it's focused on what your clients want and they pay for, right? Because otherwise, see a lot of good-natured people, good, hardworking people I've met over the years for decades. They're such good people. They want to serve everybody. And as a result, they find themselves years later depleted. They've been serving a lot of people, but then they're broke. And I don't want to see any of you suffer that dilemma either, right? You're high service, but it's not matching up. You deserve, all of you deserve to get paid really well for what you do. You deserve that, right? You deserve to have clients you love, not that you like have a dismay for, right? That charge you up, right? If you get intentional about it. So anyway, I kind of went off on a couple different angles as a result of what you had shared, but hopefully for all of you that a couple of these strategies connect. How does that sit for you, by the way? I'm just curious.
Right. I haven't really wrote too much of that sort of messaging yet. So it's my first stab at it.
Awesome. Well, it's a great start. And Sachin, do you want to share anything before we move to this next segment of the irresistible offer?
Sure, real quick, and this applies to everybody, is when you're trying to really tune into who you want to serve, then just realize that you can serve everybody, but you may not be able to market to everybody. And so if you can create enough curiosity, Trisha, with your message about depression, you can get people to lean in. And even if you say teenagers, you can get them to lean in and say, hey, my son's 21, can you help him? He's not a teenager, but they're compelled enough by your enthusiasm and the problem that they have that they're trying to solve that sometimes they're willing to look past that. But from a positioning standpoint, you know, a 21-year-old and a teenager, I mean, a teenager is in high school, a 21-year-old might be off at university and working. So where the messaging to that person is and how you access that person through your message is going to potentially be radically different. So, you know, you might just consider that, like make your message compelling enough that people are drawn into it, and then get them to ask another question. Because if they've got a teenager or even an adult friend of theirs that is suffering from that, they'll probably ask that question of you, and then you can say yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and by the way, with a lot of your messaging, you know, again, there's a lot of trauma involved, suffering, you know, pain. There's a framework where people do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure, right? So we help people eliminate suffering around anxiety, depression, could be in Trisha's example, right? So be thinking both of the benefits you provide to somebody, right? What you can, you know, you may not be able to say eliminate, because then you get into some legal areas, but you could say reduce. You know, like one of our clients, Dr. Christy, she's got a tool, I think it's called myanxietyfix.com. Like she can help you reduce your anxiety in 10 minutes or less, right? And it's just this little tool, not only for her, but also for people to give out, that she does when she does her public speaking and things, which is kind of cool, right? So Trisha, you've got a big job to fill, and it's a big one. Teenagers right now with COVID, you know, the whole thing with them not really being able to connect has created just all kinds of firestorms out there. And so I hope you can go out there and impact a lot of teenagers, and many of them you're going to save their lives, like you will save their lives. And I'm knowing this firsthand. So go for it. Play big and get out there. Yep.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you all ready for the next segment? All right. Let's dive into it. Let me pull this up and we will roll. All right, just waiting for this to catch up. I am not sure why it.
I see it.
There we go. Yep. All right. All right, to set the context, based on everything that we shared, I hope that this next segment from a legend, like a legend who's no longer with us, that you take some real great advice here from what he has to share with you. Check it out.
No, I've actually always found something to be very true, which is most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. I always call them up. I called up, this will date me, but I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far.
Good stuff. Great advice. So let's talk about creating your irresistible offer. This will build on what we just covered, getting inside your prospect's head. And these are a few key questions to be thinking. You probably want to write these down or take a screenshot of this slide. What are they worried about, right? What are your clients worried about? Like, what keeps them up at night? Next, what's the breakthrough, the outcome, the transformation, the experience that they really desire? In fact, you might want to write this acronym down, BOTE, breakthrough, outcome, transformation, experience. Keep the focus on them, your client, not you, not your service, not your product. Keep it on them and what it does for them. Breakthrough, outcome, transformation, experience. We call it the BOTE. Next, the dream come true solution, right? As some of you have talked to your clients and ideally are getting more and more new clients, whether you're new or whether you're kind of in the middle or, maybe a very mature, very successful, big, giant company having a big impact already. What is it that you could fill in the blank from your client's perspective? If you could just give me the solution to this pain, this problem, this suffering, this trauma, I would get it. What would that be? Right? Think in those terms, right? So my first irresistible offer, and I'm going to date myself. I started essentially it was my second company, but I often refer to it as my first because it was the first big one that did over 7 figures in 1992. And so if you owned a health club, I would come to you as a health club owner, and I might come to you, Dr. Vicky, and I might go, Dr. Vicky, if we could show you a way where we could help you generate a few hundred clients in your club, and it wouldn't cost you anything up front, and our company will run the marketing and we'll pay for the advertising for your TV, radio, and direct mail. And then when we profit, we'll split the profits. Would you be open to that? And when we made that presentation, we got about 7 out of 10 to say yes, they had an interest in learning more. And there's layers of lessons here. Like, notice it was to learn more. Then what we did is we would run performas on their market to identify if they were a qualified candidate. And then usually about 3 or 4 out of the 7 that said yes were qualified. Those 3 or 4 we'd have conversation with. Many times we'd enroll 1 to 2 of those clients, right? And our company did like 7 figures, in the first few months. And I'll share more about that story later. But that was the kickoff, the special irresistible offer. We could show you a way where we could help you get a couple hundred clients. It wouldn't cost you anything. We'll split the profits. Would you be open? Right. And then it led to next steps. It wasn't if they said, yes, okay, write me a check for $1 million gazillion, right? It wasn't jumping past the close. It wasn't jumping like if you meet someone, if you're single and you're at a restaurant or something, or maybe, standing waiting for a thing, you meet someone who looks nice, you go, oh, fascinating to meet you. And then you go, will you marry me? Like, you don't jump to marriage like that, but a lot of people don't break down their business, sales, or marketing that way. And they jump from they get a little bit of a soft commitment from them, then they want them to marry them. Like, no, we got to go in stages. This is about stages. We're going to show you how to do that. Another irresistible offer that kind of transformed, another transformation in my business was when I wrote this book, at least the original version of it. This is an initial book I wrote many years ago called A Champion in the Making. And I had stacks of books. I self-published it. I don't know if you can imagine this. I had literally stacks of boxes all the way up to the wall, like a full, almost the side of a garage. It was crazy. And I didn't want to do the traditional thing. I didn't want to go do book tours. I didn't want to go travel. I didn't want to go, slock my books around. And so I was like, how do I go out and market these? And I was like, oh, what if I could get on radio? I could go on radio and I could, get my book out there. And so I started researching. I looked at the time in the Yellow Pages. It still was the Yellow Pages back then. I looked in the Yellow Pages and I found all these radio stations in the market. And one of them happened to be NBC Phoenix. I'll fast forward the story. There's a whole process to this because it literally took over 6.5, 7 months of follow-up before I actually got to this point. But when I went into the show, I interviewed this guy, John, who was going to interview me on my show. And I had this idea as I was interviewing, because if you ever met someone who's really sharp, like they just got that heart, that spunk, they're like, wow, they got something going on. And then I felt pretty confident about my service and what I could do for people who worked with me. So on the air live on NBC Radio, my very first interview, this guy's named John. I stopped him in the middle of the interview about 10 minutes and I go, John, time out. I have a question. He goes, what? I go, if I could guarantee you and I could show you a way that I could help you increase your income by 100 grand or more if you follow my coaching and mentoring, and you could do that in the next 12 months or less, would you take me up on it? Now, what would you say to that if you were him on the radio? And he's the host of the radio show at NBC. And so he goes, yes. He goes, and I'm saying yes for two reasons. One, who wouldn't want to increase their income by 100 grand in 12 months? And two, if you don't, I will shred you on radio. It makes for interesting media. So he did. And I didn't hit the goal. That was kind of a tragedy. We didn't hit the goal in a year. We actually helped him increase his income by 100 grand in 4 months and 3 days, to be exact. And it was a huge breakthrough that ultimately led to a lot of fascinating opportunities over time, right? When we work with our private clients today, in many ways, we come to, if we could help you grow by $1 million or more, and we could be free to you, would you want to know more, right? Which is, to a degree, what our offer is. We believe we should be free to our clients with what we do or what we provide in value, right? So for you, what does your irresistible offer look like? Now, you might be new at this, but even if you're new, I want to encourage you to learn even from a 12-year-old's very first irresistible offer. This is my son, Kyler, who put together a commercial for a class project all on his own. And I want to have you hear the commercial, see the commercial, and then I did a little mini 3-minute interview with Kyler as well. So you get some perspective. I think there's a lot of learning lessons from a 12-year-old at this point. Check it out.
Tired of doing lots of scrubbing and housework all day long? Well, today is your lucky day. But don't fear, because Crash Cleaning is here. All for a reasonable one-time cost. All you need to do is call 1-800-CRASH, and we will get straight to cleaning your house top to bottom. Just remember, call 1-800-CRASH today.
Cost may vary and how big your house is, cleaning rates may apply.
The best cleaners in the whole wide world, Crash.
Now, how cool is that? Is that pretty cool? Right? From a 12-year-old. Now, there may be some natural tendencies to think or feel a few things, but let's address a couple of those right now.
At all on a daily basis? Well, if so, then this 12-year-old has some insights to be able to share with you right now. As part of a project that he is working with in his drama class, he was asked to, you were asked to put a commercial together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna have him read this commercial and see if you get any insights from this. He wrote this on his own, by the way. Now, truth be told, let me speak to the elephant in the room. You might think that Dad helped him. I had no involvement in this, but I'm gonna ask him a few questions on how he came up with this all on his own, and he's gonna give you some things to be thinking about for your business. So go ahead and read your commercial, will you?
So this is a cleaning commercial.
So if you didn't hear that really well, it's a cleaning commercial, right? So a service for cleaning, all right.
Tired of doing lots of scrubbing and housework all day long? Well, today is your lucky day, but don't fear because Crash Cleaning is here. All for a reasonable cost. All you need to do is call 1-800-CRASH and we will get straight to cleaning your house top to bottom. Just remember, call 1-800-CRASH. Costs may vary on how big your house is, cleaning rates may apply. The best cleaners in the whole wide world, Crash.
Crash! How about a crash course in marketing, selling, and a whole lot more? Now, by the way, how do you make money in the world?
Influence and persuasion.
Yeah, and what is marketing?
Storytelling and...
You got it, storytelling.
Oh, storytelling.
Yeah, so here's the deal. If you're struggling to be getting new clients, maybe you should get a 12-year-old to help write your copy, write your context, write your commercials. Now, by the way, I was like blown away because I said, hey, will you read this to me? And he read it to me and I was like, wow. And I see Randy Garden is watching. Randy, what's up, brother? Randy's one of the top marketing business minds in the world, helping companies grow and do big things. Like, so where did you come up with this? Because I know people that might see this might go, oh, your dad helped you write this whole thing. Now, did your dad help you write any of this?
No.
No. So how did you figure out to write this? Talk to us. Give us some insight here.
What I did was I looked at commercials from online commercials on YouTube and I put them together to make my own sort of commercial.
Yeah, modeling. Have you ever heard that idea? Model what works. What works? Find something that works, model it, and then test it and put it out in the marketplace. Well done, my son. Now, I'm a little biased. This is my son. He's 12 years old and doing good things. So great job. Anyway, what can you learn from this 12-year-old? If you're struggling to get new clients every day, maybe look at having this creative mind. Number 2, model what other successful people are doing. No, by the way, it helps to have a coach. It helps to have a mentor. Find someone who has the results you want. Have them help you get those kind of things in place because they can save you a bunch of time. They can buy you time. They can buy you speed, which ultimately saves you money. Anyway, any last thoughts?
No.
All right, there you have it. Go put it in place. Go get some daily sales right now. See ya. Bye.
Pretty cool, right? Yeah, I'm partial and biased, of course. He blew me away with that when he put that together. So let's talk about your irresistible offer, the keys to an irresistible offer, right? Number 1, you want to build an offer that demonstrates, or builds a feeling and or creates real results in advance, right? Results in advance. Number 2, you want to create it in such a way where it minimizes or feels like there's a minimal or no risk. Number 3, Dean Jackson says it really well. The framework of the thinking behind this, it's cheese versus whiskers, right? So a mouse, what does a mouse want? A mouse wants to eat a lot of cheese, right? A Pac-Man wants to eat a lot of dots. What do they want to avoid? The ghosts, right? So I'm going to have to come up with my own version. Eat dots, avoid ghosts, right? So it's dots versus whiskers, or dots versus ghosts. So cheese versus whiskers, same idea, right? Keep that in mind. Joe Polish, who we talked about a little bit earlier, he has this great framework. He says the worst offer you can make is no offer at all, right? Here's a question I ask you. Write this down right now. How many offers did you make yesterday? Write down a number, whatever it is. This is for your info, by the way. You don't have to share it. How many offers have you made in the last week? And then how many offers have you made in the last 30 days? We see a correlation. Remember that Pearson's Law quote? That which is measured improved, that which is measured and reported improves exponentially. We have found that one of the key metrics to look at is just increase the number of offers you make every day and your results go up, right? So if you've got 3 offers you've made, double it. What would have to happen for you to double the number of offers you made, right? So kind of we'll be looking at that. Some of you made 0 offers yesterday. Some of you made 1 offer in the last week. Make more offers, right? Next, 4 components of a great offer. Number 1, you want to have that offer get attention. The best way to get attention is ask a question related to your perfect client's issue. Notice that Kyler, that commercial, opened with a question. Tired of cleaning all day long, or however he said it, right? Get attention. Best, simplest way, hook the brain with a question. Number 2, build interest, right? Build interest in what you have. Number 3, create desire. Number 4, have a call to action. What's the step to take, right? In his example, it was called the 1-800-CRASH number, right? I believe, or some version of that. What is your call to action that you're putting out in your offers, right? Book a call. Let's have a conversation. Let's do business. What's it going to take for us to move forward? Do you want my help? Like write this down. One of the best questions most of you could be asking your potential clients if you get into a conversation with them about doing business with you is stop as you get to a place where you want to have them decide. Just say this. Hey, here's what I'd love to know. I guess the key question we need to answer is, do you want my help? That's your fancy pants, Tommy Hopkins, behind the back, razzle dazzle clothes. Do you want my help? Right? Could all of you do that? Especially as medical. I know there's all kinds of fancy pants ways that people teach people how to sell and all this stuff. I would encourage you to just keep it that simple. Here's a question I'd love to ask you. Do you want my help? Seems like there's a good fit here, right? Call to action, right? So by the way, I didn't invent that framework. It's called the AIDA formula. If you hadn't seen that before, AIDA formula, and you may have heard it before. Here's a question I have for you. You know who the creator is. If you know who the creator is, type it in the chat window. I'd love to see if anybody knows who the creator is. It's been around a while. Remember, principle-based models, not just tactics, right? It was created by this guy, Elias St. Elmo Lewis, in 1898. Elias St. Elmo Lewis in 1898. It's been around a while. This is a principle-based model, right? He's the AIDA model creator. Now, I want to show you some samples from some obscure industries. So this is a sample for carpet cleaning, making an irresistible offer. Just want to show you some components. This is from an old school, outdated Yellow Page ads, but there's so many elements that are still very applicable. Notice the far right. The far right is where the main offer is. The eye goes to the far right on a web page, by the way. So that's something to keep in mind as you build out your pages or your offers. He's got free carpet estimate, free room of cleaning, free bottle of professional spot remover. His headline, your most thorough carpet cleaning ever, or it's free, right? It's got an image, and the image demonstrates what? Family, community, love, right? There's all kinds of feelings an image will convey. When you put out images on the site, don't just put out an image to put out an image. What is or are the feelings that that image is conveying as it relates to what it is you do, right? Down in the far left, he makes it simple. Consumer warning, don't call any carpet cleaner until you hear this 24-hour recorded message. Now, a website today takes the place of that because get this free report, you can opt in to get this free, XYZ type thing. That sort of thing. Fast 1 hour dry time, 100% ironclad, risk-free guarantee, eliminates risk, results in advance, all that stuff, right? And it's got a success story testimonial in the middle. Here's another one, a book model, like people that publish and sell books, right? Because some of you might go, well, how does this apply to my industry? I'm going to show you all kinds of industries to show you how it applies. And I know Sachin and his team are showing you ways every day through the work that you guys are doing together, or every week through the work you're doing together to build your versions of this. So get your free hardcover copy of this book. This guy has sold more books on TV and online than anybody, I think, in the marketplace. It was because of an irresistible offer, free. And here's the catch. If you cover the cost of shipping, I'll donate to Feeding America, right? Next, nutrition products. Like you can even sell nutrition products this way. Here's a company called Organifi. This is a little sampling of their page. Upper right, try it free. Now you can enjoy this product, Organifi green juice, for free. You just pay shipping, right? So again, results in advance, minimize or eliminate the risk, right? Those are a couple key. Even furniture. Here's a furniture company my team found. Risk-free plus shipping, right? So you can have it 100 nights in your home. Skip the awkward 5-minute fully clothed tryout at the mattress store with Lowell. You get a 100-day and night in-home mattress trial to make sure your purchase was the right one. And your 100-night mattress trial begins when the Lowell is delivered. right? So they give you a trial. How cool is that, right? How cool is that? So what is an irresistible offer you can create, right? What is your irresistible offer? If I could show you a way to and eliminate, would you want to learn more, right? Start with that framework. And again, we've got some other parts of the framework in a second we'll get to. Now, this doctor, I mentioned him a little bit earlier, Dr. Gray, we worked with him on his offer construction through this 4-step MO. Companies actually will bring us in to do a day with them to really flesh out this unique process, unique method, and some other parts to it. We spend a day doing it. Like can be a pretty intense exercise. And in his case and in his company, it transformed his company. Essentially at the time, he felt a lot of pain because he felt like he was serving a lot of clients that were just seeing him as like a Facebook expert. And he was so far above that. And they were only paying him, some clients, $500 a month to do ads. And he didn't really want to serve that market either. Like he didn't want it. So we helped him go through this process, and we'll give you a mini version of this today. He went from $500 a month to $5,000 a month and performance percentages on what is offer. And he said, you know, when we first tested this one new offer generated 95 grand in business in less than 14 days. The concept itself is worth millions, right, to his business. Unique offering, right? What was the difference? An irresistible offer. Here's 3 things to know about your offer. You probably want to write these down. Make it easy for your clients to say yes, right? But don't make it hypey or salesy. So there's an art and a science to that. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit more in detail. Number 2, make it creative and innovative, but not cute. Cute does not sell. This is not a tagline, right? This is about what it does for your clients, right? Make it creative and innovative. And number 3, make it playful and fun to do business with you, right? Playful and fun. Joe Polish, a mutual friend of Sachin and I's, he says you can have a half business, hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, or you can have an elf business, easy, lucrative, and fun. Or another way I many times will visualize or demonstrate this visually, you can have this kind of business, or you can have that business. Which business would you prefer? Elf or half, right? So make it playful and fun. So with that in mind, so this is John Bowen. John is a top coach to financial experts in the world. He says, been a secret weapon until recently. So we want to walk you through the 4 steps to create your high converting offer. Again, as Sachin mentioned, this is one of those to pull out a clean sheet of paper. So I'll give you a second to pull out a clean sheet of paper. It's also an excuse for me to get my vocal cords a little wet. And here we go. All right, 4 steps. Number 1, establish your unique market. Identify your unique market, right? Most people go too broad, narrow it down. You can get rich in your unique niche, right? So who is your unique market? And then identify ideally the sub niche in your category, right? In the example that Trisha shared earlier, pre-teens and teens, those could be 2 unique markets, right? Those would be categories. What are your categories? What are your categories? Even better might be girls that are teens or pre-teens, right? That could potentially, we could find that to be a bigger concern for parents, right? For whatever reason. Powerful words. I hope you write these down or take a screenshot of this, right? Take a picture of it. Instead of trying to serve everybody and say yes to everybody, no, we don't offer that here, but we can refer you to someone who does. Look to be a connector. Look to be transformational. Look to provide people amazing value, whether you do business with them or not. And that's what this represents, right? We can refer you to someone who does. So here's another part. Who is not your ideal client, right? Lots of people focus on the avatar and who is your client. Who is not your client? Write down a couple characteristics, right? I know in our business, a couple characteristics of someone who is not our ideal client is very clear to us. Number 1, they're linear focused on growth, right? They're just kind of dipping their toe in the water. Doesn't mean they're good people or bad people. It just means for us, it's not a fit. We want hyper growth focused companies, right? Number 2, they're not collaborative, right? They have to be the smartest person in the room. And you can see that not only how they operate within our working, but you can see it how they treat their team, right? So teamwork, collaborative, or they're constantly complaining. My team sucks. My team is this. My team is that. Like, that's not a fit for my company. I'll punt them out the door or say no up front if we know it going in, right? So hyper growth focused, teamwork, non-teamwork oriented. Number 3 is they're focused on just making money. In my early days, truth be told, damaging confession, I focused on a lot of it. A lot of my yes decisions were based on what was the financial opportunity. I've since learned that doing it based on values is a higher game to play, and a much more fun game to play, and a much more enjoyable game to play with people you actually enjoy working with, right? I hope you don't make the same mistake I did, but when you're new, you have to kind of discover what is likely going to be your fit or not at the same time, right? So keep that in mind too. So who is not your ideal client versus who? So ideally, you've gotten a couple additional layers of clarity around your unique market. Number 2, establish your unique message. So here's the way to think about this to ideally simplify it. What is it you can say that only you can say? That only you can say. So you can create a unique message for what you offer, right? What is it only you can say? Right now, we're going to get into a layer of how you can do that in a second, okay? So what is it you can say, only you can say? And then that ties to number 3, which this one, if I had to put an asterisk on where to put some focus, it would be this. It's establish your unique method, right? In other words, you want to name your method, and then what are the steps to support the fulfillment to deliver the outcome of the promise? And by the way, we're going to give you some examples here. So if you're feeling like a little bit like, oh, I'm a little confused, or I'm feeling a little stuck, we're going to show you a couple examples as well to help bring some clarity to this too. So what are the steps that make your method unique? In other words, when you deliver your service, Trisha, when you help these teenagers or these pre-teenagers eliminate or reduce anxiety and depression, even when they've tried hundreds of other things before, or maybe quit other things, and they're kind of looking at other options that are unhealthy, and you're giving them a better solution. How do you do that? Like, what are the steps? What's the DNA to make that happen, right? That leads to number 4, establish your unique offer, right? So you want to ideally name your offer with the solution that it provides. Like, Sachin's has a great one, right? What is this called? Perfect what? Perfect Practice. Perfect Practice. He has an event called Perfect Practice Live, right? He has a book called he's got a website called Get Perfect Practice, which is the book, right? The Perfect Practice book. Pretty simple to know what his offer is. Help you do what? Get a perfect practice. Build a better practice in love, from love, right? So what about yours? What could you name your unique offer? And again, we're going to kind of break this down just a little bit. So ideally, the name equals the solution, or has part of the solution in the name, right? Dan Sullivan, who's someone that Sachin and I know as well mutually, he says, if you name the game, you own the game, right? If you name the game, you own a game. So let me give you a couple case study examples here to kind of unpack each of these. So Dave Asprey, a handful of years ago, was looking to start a business. It's actually in one of the most commoditized industries in the world, coffee. And he went into that marketplace. And if he would have done what most people, who's your market? Everyone who drinks coffee. Could have been easy for him to do that, but he narrowed it. His version, at least our interpretation of his version, is he focused on health enthusiasts or fitness enthusiasts who love coffee. No one had ever claimed that niche before in a niche. So the niche was coffee. He went in a niche, fitness enthusiasts who drink coffee. And by the way, if you don't know Dave, you're going to be astounded by the results if you don't know it already. His unique message. Did you know you could get fit drinking coffee? I certainly didn't know that when I first heard him sharing this message. It intrigued me, who I'm not a coffee drinker, still not. It intrigued me to actually try coffee, his coffee, right? So it even took someone who's a no coffee drinker and almost got him to be a yes, right? And if it's just the taste, because of the taste of coffee, which I just, for whatever reason, doesn't sit with me, just can't do it, right? But his message, unique message, get fit drinking coffee. He's the only one in the niche that at the time was focused on it. A lot of copycats now. Number 3, his unique method that he claimed, but it wasn't even his method. This is a method that had been around like basically since ancient days, which is adding grass-fed butter, in this case, to your coffee, It has certain health properties, antioxidants and stimulants and more in a natural way, right? And actually you can add grass-fed butter to all kinds of food to cause that, but he focused on coffee at the time. His unique method, add grass-fed butter to your coffee. What is his unique offer? Bulletproof coffee. Bulletproof coffee, right? Now, if you don't know Dave's story, Dave's company last year, I believe, did about $100 million off the back of coffee, and now it's transcended into a lot of other parts of the Bulletproof brand, but off the beginning of one core product, one core product, one core focus, right? So if you got this down, what could it be worth to your business? Mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, the 5 freedoms that Sachin teaches you, right? From a health perspective, from family freedom to be able to have personal freedom, right? Financial freedom, emotional freedom, and more. Would it be worth to you, right? Here's another example, Joe Polish. We went in and focused on this, a unique market, entrepreneurs whose business does at least $1 million a year and values connection and connections and operating from a place of contribution. They're contributors in the world, right? And looking to do big things that way. Number 2 is unique message, reduce suffering for entrepreneurs. Again, no one had ever claimed that. A lot of copycats since, but he was the one to claim it first and develop it. His unique method is, he's got a couple actually, but one of them is called genius networking, right? All of it, we're genius networking right now, according to Joe's definition of it. So genius networking, he named it and labeled it. And then his unique offer is something called Genius Network, right? Genius Network, right? Pretty simple, pretty powerful. And his Genius Network is 25,000 a year. So let's unpack what you do. What is your unique market? Go ahead and write it down, right? Who is your unique market? And who is your unique market? Ideally, you can keep it as simple as Dave and Joe. You know, Dave, fitness enthusiasts who drink coffee. Joe, entrepreneurs doing $1 million a year, value connections and contribution. What could your unique market be? Right? Unique message. What could your unique message be? You know, Dave's unique message is fitness enthusiasts who drink coffee. Or, I'm sorry, get fit while you drink coffee. Sorry, that was the unique market. Get fit while you drink coffee. Joe's, reduce suffering for entrepreneurs, right? We already covered Sachin's earlier a bit. What could yours be? What is your unique message? Ideally, it's just getting a little bit more crystallized. Now, what is the method to deliver that promise? Right? What is the method? You know, you might have 4 or 5 steps in it. And again, I'll give you a couple examples here in a second. When you do this, you can transform your business. Now, you might be thinking, we're not that unique. We're part of a structured program. You might even say, like, we're part of a franchise. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, right? Or we're not a big name. We're not a big name. I'm just getting started. I'm just like this one person operating out of my virtual business, right? Or it doesn't apply to me in my industry or something. Truth, if you apply it, you can own your niche in the industry. You'll sell more, you'll attract more perfect clients, and you'll get referrals from this way of doing it. Dr. Scott, I shared his example slightly earlier. He was a traffic expert for chiropractors at the time. We went through this makeover with his unique market, got clear, unique message, got it clear, unique method. He transformed it to what's called the patient infusion method, like out of nowhere, right? We just named it because essentially he infuses patients in businesses for doctors who have stem cell clinics or alternative health practices, right? And he's got a mechanism to do it for them, right? Patient infusion method. There's 5 steps to the patient infusion method. Now, these were the same 5 steps that they did with every client they've worked with for years. They just started naming that. So that now when they got into a conversation, they would go, you know, we offer something no one else in the world offers. It's called the patient infusion method. And there's 5 steps to it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And that's how we're going to help you get the result of the message, the promise, to the market, right? Hopefully you start to see how this is starting to connect the dots. And again, Dr. Scott went from serving and struggling with $500 a month clients to $5,000 clients, basically doing the same thing and being able to deliver a way better experience because of it, right? Transformational, not transactional. Hopefully you see that. His new way, the patient infusion method, right? And he grew over 4x in a year. Right? It works. It can work for you. Joe Polish, when we sat down, I'd known Joan, I'll save the longer backstory, short story. We decided to work together. And when we sat down at a restaurant next to his office, I said, hey, what's your goal? He said, I'm in about 60 some members. I have a goal to get to 100. That was his big goal at the time. I said, well, I think I can help you. And I can help you get free of your business and focus on some of the other things. And we went to work, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't overnight. It was a process. All of this stuff, marketing and sales, is a process-driven model. It's a principle-based model, right? Not an overnight windfall, right? So the new offer that we created for Joe, he had 37 candidates a year, the year before we had started working together. Once we got our stuff in place, again, which did take some time, we went from 37 candidates a year to 100 candidates a month for his program called Genius Network. Just think about 37 in a year, 100 a month. What do you think would happen, right? Well, for him, we didn't hit the goal of 100. We did it. Damaging confession. We grew it to over 200 members. And all of that momentum allowed him to then create another group that's $100,000 a year group, and also free him up to focus on some of his other passions as well, like solving the conversation around addiction, which I'm really proud of having played even a small part in building some things to help him do that, right? It can work for you too, right? Again, it's relationship driven, not transactional, right? So it added over a few $1 million a year to their business, right? So how are you communicating your offer, right? Where can you use it? Where can you use the unique methods, unique market, unique message, unique method, and unique offer, right? Where can you use it? So here's an example of a company that used it in their own sort of way. And ideally, this is kind of a fun example for you to see and witness as well. So we kind of make light of it, not put so much like, like this is a little tough or whatever, right? So this company, Post, one of the bigger cereal brands, and all kinds of, they've got all kinds of things beyond cereal, of course, but they have a product you may know of called Shreddies, right? So here are Shreddies, and then they got Honey Shreddies, right? So they expanded their market a little bit. So they got Honey Shreddies, and then they got Cocoa Shreddies, and then they got Banana Bread Shreddies, right? And expanded their market. And then they got family size Shreddies. And then they got really innovative and creative, and they got the new Diamond Shreddies. They got rid of the old, or maybe in addition to the old, they also came out with the new Diamond Shreddies. See, think of the creativity it took for that, right? And also how much did it cost them to actually come up with the new Diamond version, other than create a creative, resourceful mind? Wasn't resources, because, we got to create a whole new brand, and we got to create a whole new thing, and we get all that limited thinking in our head and our heart. And they were like, no, let's just be creative. We can just kind of shift the message slightly, right? Because aren't a square and a diamond the same thing, just turned on an angle? Anyway, think about that. So then they came out with a combo pack where you had a choice of the square or the diamond, which is so funny to think about, right? I don't know about you, but hopefully you have a good sense of humor to see the humor in this approach here. So the summary, what would it be worth for you to get this in place for you, right? So your action steps. We have a tool, and Phil's going to drop a link where you can download this to go through. And just for sake of time, to be able to hold our promise and commitment of being done when we're supposed to be done today, we're going to take a little break, 5-minute break. During the break, ideally you can make the break quick, but ideally I would love for you to take whatever you've scratched out on your sheet of paper, which you should have most of this, to then get on this one pager for you, right? We covered the unique market, the message, the method, and the offer, right? We don't have time to go into the buying experience process, and that's okay, because even these 4 are going to be really, really powerful. So we make that tool available. I encourage you to use this tool and revisit this about every quarter with any offer you've got and any new offer you might roll out, right? Because again, these things are unique for each product or service, right? And this just is a good framework, a good place to kind of house it all in it's a one-pager. Like you can do this in 10 minutes, right? Especially as you start doing this more often, right? So market, message, method, and offer. So there you have it. And again, tips to maximize your results with everything we're sharing. Everything you need to get results in your Perfect Practice mentorship and program, including the tools, templates, and more. And if you need additional help or want additional help one-on-one, talk with Sachin's team about the options that might be available to enhance that deeper, further, faster, whatever, right? Depending on where you're at and what you're doing and all that cool stuff. So how did you enjoy that session? Some good stuff there? All right, we like to do ratings. So the PDF is in the chat. So if you want to do a rating 1 to 10, 1 is low, 10 is high, what that would be. Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. It's good stuff. All right. So we're going to take can we make this a 3-minute break? All right.
Yes.
Because we held a promise to go till 10, and I'm a little bit concerned that this presentation is going to take a little bit past 10. So what's the best way to work with that? Do I shorten the presentation or do I extend it 10, 15 minutes?
I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have got to get the kids fitted. You can talk faster because this is being recorded, so people will be able to watch the replay.
All right.
So maybe we do that if that's okay with you. That way we can kill, we can save 2 birds.
Yeah. And maybe we'll do a little bit of both. All right. All right. Let's take 3 minutes. We'll meet back here at 9:36 and we'll kick this next section off. Thank you.
Something about them not being connected. I'm like, I haven't touched anything. Didn't get.
All right. Are you ready?
Let's go. Yes.
Coming down the home stretch. Oh, it says I can't share.
Try now.
Thank you. All right. All right, this one is one of my favorites. And also we hear from our clients regularly that this is one of their favorites to bring clarity and focus on possibilities, right? And that's what this is all about. So we're going to go a little bit fast, but because we're recording it, you can come back to it. This is about creating your ultimate sales model blueprint. Essentially, it's a case study of how we grew to 1,000 leads and 100 clients a day. That's correct, per day, and over 100 million in business, right? One day on my back patio, I talked about the story of this book, and John, the guy who took me up on that invitation, came to my patio, and we sat down, and I started to get to know John, and he shared a little bit of his story. And I asked him, I said, well, what's your potential doing what you're doing in radio? And he shared with me, well, this is what my upside is in this market. And I said, huh, that's interesting. Well, the way I kind of look at it is, you seem like someone, John, who's got a lot of skills and capabilities, and, you have, this ability to influence and persuade, which he did and does. And I said, you take those skills, and I said, let's liken it. Let's kind of parallel it to racing. I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Jeff Gordon or Jimmy Johnson, two like really Dale Earnhardt, three of the most prolific drivers in the history of NASCAR racing. And, if you put any one of those three on a NASCAR track in a Yugo, they could be the greatest drivers in the world, but they're in the wrong vehicle, focused on the wrong service, focused on the wrong product. There's a limit, and you start hitting walls and plateaus and hit your head a lot. And they're like constantly doubting and questioning, which John was. And I said, well, what if, John, we got you shifted into a vehicle that gave you the ability to be like a Ferrari? Just like you take a high performer racer and put them in a high performance race car, you can get high performance results. And John connected with that, this kind of mini story immediately. And he started making some shifts right away in what he was doing. And it transformed his life. Not only was he stayed in radio, as well as started focusing on using his capabilities in a much better vehicle. That's how we were able to help him get to 6 figures in four months, in 2 days. From a couple of those simple shifts, the vehicle with a high performance racer like John, like you're in a high performance vehicle with Sachin, where he can show you how, as a high performance race car driver, you can get results, right? Using your vehicle, or make some of the shifts that are necessary to make your vehicle drive faster and get out of a Yugo and into a Ferrari type of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. If you're going to build a house, what would you do, right? What would you do? You'd build a blueprint, right? You'd have blueprints to a house. Now, why do we have a blueprint? In business, we do it because it gets you, your team, and your clients in a place where there's a predictable experience. Isn't that what you want? Right? If that's what you want, having a blueprint is really critical. But this is another question we ask. On top of the marketing plan blueprint, we go, hey, can you show us your sales model blueprint? And most of the time they look at us like a deer in the headlights. What are you even talking about? They haven't scripted it out. And I learned to do this on napkins and 1 sheets of paper. Like, if you can't simplify it to 1 sheet of paper, it's probably too complicated, at least in my eyes. Right? I know some of you are very sophisticated and have all these degrees and all this sort of stuff, but I'm just an inner city kid that I believe works to keep things very, very simple. Right? So we call this the 3D approach, by the way. What are the 3Ds? You document it, you duplicate it, you delegate it. Like, one of the keys to most success, and as you grow, and talk about then from growing to scaling, is you document it, you duplicate it with one other person at least, and then you start to delegate it through others, right? 3D approach. So what's the value, you think, of having you, your clients, your team, your vendors, partners on the same page, right? What's alignment worth, right? And what do you want? Do you want to spend more time in your business day to day, or do you want to spend more time on the business and or working on the things that you're more suitable to do, the things that charge you up, the things that give you energy, the things that empower you a lot more? Did you know you can delegate most of the things you don't enjoy doing if you set it up right? And that's what we want to show you, the freedom to focus on the things that matter, where you can create greater predictable lead, sales, and profits in your practice, right? So you can have a bigger impact, a bigger reach and contribution. So I want you to pull out a sheet of paper right now. Pull out a sheet of paper, one clean sheet. And I want you to identify where you are now. And I want you to write out your sales model blueprint, right? Hopefully it doesn't look this sloppy, but I want you to draw it out. And I want you to just think of boxes. Like, so I meet somebody, like whatever your approach is to build your sales model. And again, this is a starting point. And then we're going to show you the 6 core models that at some point you may use all of them, or you might just focus on one, or you might combine a couple, or anywhere in between. We're going to show you them, but for the now, I want you to try to draw out your sales model right now, your sales process, right? So just take 30 seconds to go ahead and do your mini blueprint of what that would look like. From the start of how you meet them, like you might run an ad in a local newspaper, and then they do a phone call to your office, and you either have a call and then book a time to meet with them, and then you enroll them. So that might be 4 boxes. Or some of you are more, working with Sachin, and you've now got your new sales page that he showed you how to get done and set up. And you might actually be running ads in your local market, like newspaper ads, radio ads. You might be doing Facebook ads or a combination. So you might put a box for ads, and they're all leading to the sales page box, and they go to the sales page. And then what happens next? A phone call. Phone call leads to a sale. You might put an S for sale. So you have 4 boxes, right? You might have an online type thing. Anyway, draw out your sales problem. It'll take another 10 seconds or so, right? But hopefully it's not like this, all this sophisticated stuff you see on this page right now, and then you try to close the sale, right? Because that could be a little weird. Hopefully it's simpler. Now, by the way, if you're like feeling a little like maybe down right now, and maybe you catch yourself in a little bit of a place of judgment, or the imposter syndrome, I'm not sure if I'm good enough, whatever, all that stuff might be creeping. I want to share some reality with you. And I do it right here on purpose, because we have found over time, this is where people may start crumbling just a tad. We've surveyed thousands of people who've come through this, our types of workshops over the couple of years. And we've done surveys on their sales process and their marketing process and their hiring process. And you will probably be shocked at how most people rate themselves. So on a 1 to 10 scale, most people rate their sales blueprint or sales process in their company or business as 6.7 out of 10, right? So below average for sure. 7 or below is below average, right? And how would things, and I don't know where you would rate yourself. So you might even want to do that self, or how would you rate your sales process and write your number, right? Just for you. You don't have to type it in, just write it for you. How would things be different if it were a 10 for you? How would it be different if it were a 10? So write your answer, right? And this is what happens to a lot of people. Every step of the sales process goes perfect, except that part where they're supposed to buy the thing. Excuse my humor there, because in my early days, I could just really connect to that one a lot. I used to be like, oh, like, oh, it's me anyway. So I get it. So it's like a blueprint. Let's create your map and blueprint. Now, I want to show you samples of 6 core models to build to 6, 7, even 8 figures, right? So model 1, this model is about what we refer to as build a campfire, build your authority, although that's spelled incorrectly, and audience with video views. For literally pennies, by the way. You can do this for pennies, right? Build a campfire, authority, and audience with video views for pennies. Why? Like we talked about earlier, is trust and respect important? Yes. It also at the same time builds authority, it builds goodwill. Another byproduct is it does build likability too, right? You can get to pennies per client that are highly targeted as audiences, that they like you, they trust you, and they have respect for you. So this is an example of one of these ugly little ads we put out there that has gotten thousands and thousands of our perfect clients in front of us. So notice it opens with a question, want to know how to leverage media, right? This was an interview I did with one of our clients, Bill Rasmussen of ESPN, and we posted it on Facebook. And by the way, this is over 18 minutes long. I had no idea that it would get the kind of response that it did in the time that it did when we put it out. It was kind of amazing because, I thought it might be too long, but here's what I've discovered. Doesn't matter what I think, it matters what works. So here's the key, test everything, right? Whether it's short, whether it's long, or anywhere in between, test, let the market tell you, right? What they like, right? That's really, really critical. All right, so here's an example, because you might be naturally asking, well, what does it take to run these ads, right? So this is an example, right, as a copy from our Facebook ad account where we ran, I did this intentionally to show people that you could start for as little as $1 a day. Like, so if you're willing to just have a risk threshold of $1 a day for a few videos at a time, right? You can run $1 a day ads and you can get to your perfect clients for as little as like a penny per view, right? You can see here on the far right column where it's highlighted and the one circled with 4 cents, that was the high. And we shut that one off after a period of time, but 1 cent per view at $1 a day. Over a period of time got us over 240,000 views, right? For about $1,000. $1,000 got us over. Now, why do I get so geeked out about this? In my early years, I mentioned my first couple of companies and I started in the 80s. My first one that had some level of success was in 1992. This stuff didn't exist. So when we were running radio ads and TV ads, we knew that 95% of the market, unique market, was not going to be our market. So much waste. Whereas today you can like refine down, target down, narrow down to who is your potential perfect client, right? It's amazing. That's why I get so excited about this for our clients. And ideally you get excited because you eliminate a lot of the waste. Oh my gosh, it's crazy how cool it is, right? We have now worked with our stuff and our client stuff where we've got videos with millions and millions of views, right? Without, by the way, doing because there's some experts, by the way, beware of these experts. There's a bunch of them out there. They go, to be successful online, you need to be posting 60 times a day. They're idiots, just so you know. And I mean that. Like, I am not even joking when I say that, right? Maybe for a big brand, it's like doing 20 million or higher. It's great. But for the little guy, that type of advice, like it pisses me off hearing experts talk like that. Because what it does, it takes someone who's probably a lean team or even doing a lot of manual labor and puts them into a state where they're going to do that for a couple of months because they're going to push it and push it and push it. And they're just doing what these experts say. And guess what happens? After 60, 90 days, they're burned out and they're ready to quit. And they're like questioning themselves and their ability to help people and all this stuff. It's a tragedy. It's a travesty as well. So you can do a video where you put $1 a day on it and get couple 100,000 views, or you can do 60 posts a day, which you won't get those kind of views in all likelihood, unless you have a kitty cat video that goes viral and doesn't generate you any business, despite what some of the experts make you and I believe. Anyway, can you tell it's a little bit of an irritating factor for me, some of these experts who lead you and I down the wrong path? Now, why do I know this? Because I've bought some of those programs also and worked with some of those experts. I won't mention names, but yeah, anyway, I've already shared with you. Plus, you do this at multiple places in your relationship. I believe Bob came on. Yeah, hopefully you all got a chance to take advantage of what Bob and Sachin put together. They put together an amazing special package where literally they'll do this for you, like for a couple $1,000s total, where they just handle it, like done for you. Like that's one of the best like values you could ever have. So if you haven't taken advantage or learned about it, make sure to private message Sachin or his team, and they can get you info on how to connect and learn more about that. But essentially, this is so critical because it allows you to do these campaigns in the beginning of the campaign called a cold campaign, right? Or building into the middle of a relationship where you've got a little bit of trust and respect going on already. It's warm, and then allows them to move forward where they're a client, hot, right? That's how we define it: cold, warm, hot. Again, I'm pretty simple. And then you get these fancy pants terms that experts use, like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, or BOF, MOF, TOF. Again, for me, just cold, warm, hot, cold, warm, hot, right? So ideally you see how this connects, right? But you can get to your clients at all these levels for so inexpensive these days. Have you ever, maybe with Sachin and his team, because they're brilliant at it, he's amazing at it, one of the best in the world at it. So you're following someone, again, who's leading by example at all these places. You maybe saw something with Sachin and then you start seeing these ads everywhere and you're like, wow, he's everywhere. Or maybe you've seen another company, one of your favorite companies, whatever that might be. Wow, they are everywhere. Literally, they're doing it for as little as $1 a day. And you can too. That's the beauty of this. It's so powerful when you get it in place. So this is one of the critical models. So what would it do for you to have this positioning where your perfect clients, even if you're in Hoboken, Iowa, right? Hoboken, Iowa. I don't even know if that's a city. I just made it up. Anyway, If you're in Hoboken, Iowa, and that's your market, and that's all you're playing right now, no problem. And you're able to run these campaigns. So your perfect clients there feel like, oh my gosh, they're so big, they're everywhere. You could be operating out of your house virtually, right? This is one of the most exciting times in history for the little guy to actually do and use some of this AI and some of this technology to help us. Again, if you haven't connected with Sachin and learned about Bob's thing, make sure to check in with them. Like I shared with you, I got nothing for you to sell. This is a service to Sachin because of our work together. Model 2, building a lead gen model. Some people call this a lead magnet campaign and so on, right? So this is about list building with the lead gen model, right? So what is the lead gen? The goal of the lead gen model is to build your list of interested and qualified prospects. That's the main focus, right? Remember that earlier I mentioned the idea that, you know, some people, when they hook to the question, they get someone to say yes, then they jump right to marriage at the restaurant, right? That's not the right approach. So the lead magnet is designed to do one thing, is to spark and start the relationship and then start nurturing it. That's the main focus, right? You're going to send them ongoing messages, just like if you were dating, like you would be in communication, and strengthen the relationship. It's strengthening the relationship, right? Building the bond, building trust, building respect. The fortune with this model is the follow-up over time, right? Now, by the way, another byproduct is you will get some instant sales from it if it's done right and you have an irresistible offer. But the main focus is more of the long-term focus, right? The more follow-up and the more offers you present, right? We talked about that earlier, the more profits you'll make, right? Really powerful. Now, the easiest and simplest way to accomplish the goal of building your list is with a simple checklist or a guide, right? It could be a book. Books usually take a little bit longer, right? But a little checklist, right? This is an example of a checklist. One of our tools, right? This is called How to Sell More by Selling Less. This was a tool that we used where we were able, one of our unique methods and processes that the company we sold to bought was this method. They bought it because we turned customer service people into high-performing sales performers. And very few people have ever been able to do that. And we have a 12-step checklist, right? A 12-step checklist. So we give this for people who are like not traditional salespeople, who are maybe even more introverted, for people who are more, they don't want to be salesy or hypey, right? They want something simple and comfortable. This checklist works. So we give out a tool like this with what we do, right? So it's a checklist. It's like 6 pages, right? Very simple to put together in the bigger picture. And again, working with Sachin and his team, they can show you and share with you some strategies to do that. But what you do, you put your checklist on a landing page where your prospect has a chance to enter their name and email and access the checklist, right? Pretty simple. Again, the goal, start a relationship, nurture it, just like dating, right? Deliver the checklist on it. It's not a one-night stand, right? It's dating, right? Deliver the checklist on a thank you page. And on the thank you page, you can extend an invitation to your offer or jump on a call, right? Something like that. Well, again, the strategic byproduct, you actually will get some sales from it, but more of the focus for the sale happens in the nurturing of the relationship. On the call, you'll present your products and services and make a sale, right? Here's an example, by the way. And if you want to actually go see this, you can take a picture of this, or you can even just go to the page itself, right? This is a page that we've run versions of this and we've refined. We do a lot of testing. We've done a lot of testing for a lot of years. This page converts at close to 70% to cold traffic, right? It's pretty simple. Notice the headline at the top, attention, who it's for. Then the left has got the image, get your 100% free blueprint today. The marketing, it says what it is, how to cut through the clutter and complexity. Now, where should I send it? Oh, one thing that we've done with our newest pages is instead of just name and email, here's a nuance that's increased and improved conversions. Instead of just name and email, you put enter your first name, enter your email address. Those 2 words in each box have increased conversion upwards of 7 to 10% with most of our clients' campaigns, right? But notice this is a simple page, right? This isn't fancy pants. All of you could probably create this in a couple hours. And if you want to see a sample of it, don't copy it. Don't come up with your own marketing checklist all of a sudden. Don't plagiarize. But if you want to model this page, it's a high converting page, right? And you can go see a sample at marketingblueprint.breakthrough3x.com if you want, right? So there you go. Model 3, the education-based event model. The education-based event model. So Basically, you think of this as events. Now, there's all kinds of experts that would lead you to believe that there's one event that's better than all of them. Like there might be the challenge, there might be the webinar, there might be the workshop, there might be the XYZ, whatever. All these experts come out with their funny things. We refer to this as just events are an ongoing part of the process. Choose the events you like, right? If you like doing live dinners, do live dinners. If you like doing live virtual, do live. If you like doing both a dinner and virtual, combine them. If you like doing 5-day extensive challenge, do 5-day extensive challenges, right? I mean, Sachin's one of the best in the world at showing people how to set up a challenge. He gives you an entire blueprint and template as part of one of the programs. And if you know, you can learn more if you're not part of that. As of now, you can learn more about how to get your hands on it. But regardless of any of that, here's some simple things. You can do this as a traditional live webinar. You can do it as an on-demand webinar, meaning it's running 24/7 for you. You can do it as a live cast on a live stream. Like you can just do it on Facebook Live. You could do it on YouTube Live. You could do, there's all kinds of places. In person, you could do a challenge. You could do a workshop and more, right? So don't get hung up on like what type. Just pick basically the ones you like, right? So what do you need for these? You just keep it simple, by the way, because again, so many people overcomplicate it. We talked about the tech stuff getting in the way of making money. Don't complicate it. Let's show you how simple. You just need really to begin a registration page. You need a confirmation page, which gives them the details of what's going on and when. You need them to attend. And then you need to follow up. And then you need to think of what is your offer and the call to action. That's what you got to have. And by the way, up to 70% of the sales will happen after the event that they initially attend, if you follow up. This is where a lot of people drop the ball. So hopefully you see the simplicity in this. Oh, by the way, if you want to take a screenshot of this, this is a good example of a registration page that you could model and copy. Again, don't copy it word for word, but copy it for whatever it is you might, whatever training or event you might host. Whether you host a live dinner, you could create a page like this. This page converts at over 60%, right? The example of this page, right? Here's an example. You could take a picture of this. This is an example of a thank you page. It says, congratulations. When they enter their name, it puts their first name instead of friend and the name of it. What to do now? Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. Right? Give them the steps. And then there's a little video. You don't need a video, but you could create a video when you're ready. You don't need a video. Let me repeat that. You don't need a video. Don't let the video being there or not stop you from setting up your event. You don't need it. Does it help? Yeah, because it personalizes it a little bit, but it's not a requirement to get started. The key is get going, get it going. Don't try to be perfect. Just try to get it going. Get it going. That's what we want for you. I know that's what's said. So I want to give you a couple case study examples. One of our clients that we're working with, in the course of 1 full year, in a niche, they're in a very tight niche, very specific niche. So I just want to give you context because you hear about some of these numbers and you're like, oh, I could never do that. I'm small and in a niche. In 1 year, for the entire 12 months, they had 7,700 people register for their education-based webinar, right? If you break that down per month, because they were doing them one a month, they had approximately what? 800 people a month, right? Actually less than that. It's 600 people a month, right? Yeah, about 650. Now, when they did their call to action, it resulted in about 700 calls, 770 calls to be exact, right? 770 calls booked to learn more. Their call to action, they would just say, hey, if you want to learn more about how we can help you, help implement what we've just shared with you for your business, XYZ industry, then let's have a conversation. You can book a strategy call with one of our team. 770 calls of those were booked. Now, here's something most experts will not tell you. You're going to have people who don't show up. About 440 of the 770 showed up. The others didn't, right? For their appointment. They enrolled 175 people into an initial program for $2,000. Now, some of you have programs that are lower. Some of you have some that are higher. Some of you could bundle your packages as if you thought of it instead of like a 1-day program or a one meeting program. You could build a 12-week, you could build a 6-month, you could build a year, right? There's all kinds of ways to do the different packaging of what you're doing. Theirs was a 12-week, $2,000 program. Plus it included an event on the back of it. So by the way, he's not lighting the world on fire here, right? In 1 year, they only enrolled 175 people. Now, some of you that are running very successful practices would go, well, Dan, Sachin, you're teaching me to get a 350. If I did that and put that much energy, I'd go broke. Bear with us, grasshopper. Bear with us. Here we go. They offer another program as part of this as an ongoing value. Optional that people take advantage of, and actually over 70 or over 50% of people take advantage of that offer. And that offer has a lifetime value and contract of over $100,000. So this particular client had over 90 people enroll in that $100,000 program, right? So all in all, that model, using the education-based tool, the webinar, once a month, that produced 7,700 total registrations, 600 and some a month, resulted in approximately 175 people got their core program of a couple grand to get their feet wet, build and nurture the relationship further. Then they made the bigger offer, which is to go deeper, which is a full business suite of done for you, done with you type things, which netted over $9 million, right? Pretty incredible, right? Now, again, your mind might be blown with the number, so I want to come up with something else to show you that's maybe a little simpler for you to grasp. So that leads to model 4, direct sale model. There we go. Looks like we're back. All right, direct sale, make a direct offer, right? So, you know, if you go check out some of Sachin's stuff, he's got direct offers, and I'm going to get into one of them in a second, which another version of a direct offer is the book. And I'm going to show you a sample of his because it's one of the best in the world, especially in your industry and niche, right? But we have one called the Perfect Client Blueprint and Perfect Client System, right? Which is a program we've offered. Like if you go there, because I just, you know, this is a sample for you to go check out how we laid it out. You might decide to lay out a sales page like this. Working with Sachin, you get to build a sales page. Depending on some level of the program. If you're not, check out, you know, talk to his staff to see how you can get access to that. But with a site or a page like this, you make a direct offer. For us, this program is $4,900, right? It's a direct offer. And you get a sampling if you go to Perfect Client Blueprint, but it's a direct. So, you know, we'll drive traffic, or people hear us do the call to action. They'll just go there and we let that do the selling for us. It's a robotic, it's online 24/7. It doesn't go away. And when it's available, right? So you can create something like that that's always there in the background for you, working for you on behalf of you, right? Model 5, one of my favorite, the strategy call model, gives people the chance to apply, learn more, right? It's to attract high value clients. We built this for Genius Network with Dean and Tony Robbins. And this was the page we built. Ready to get an unfair advantage to grow your business? Notice it opened with a question, right? And it also speaks to the type of entrepreneur that Joe wants. Limited seating, apply here, apply now. And that led to an application, book a call, right? Now, if you want to see a sample of this kind of a page, our internal page, you can go to breakthroughstrategycall.com, breakthroughstrategycall.com, and just see the format. You'll see there's a video at the top. There's a little headline, calendar, what you'll get from it, and I believe some testimonials. Right. It's, again, these are ideally, you start to see these as very simple, usable, doable things you can create as assets for your business. Right. So strategy call model, one of the most powerful ones that you can use. Now, by the way, if you do have a strategy call model, or many of you are talking to your clients, like they might come one-to-many or one-to-one, come to a phone conversation. I wanted to share with you some value, like from this 12-step checklist that we've got. I took a couple of the key ones and laid it in here for you that are some of the critical ones. When you open the conversation, because a lot of times people go, what do I say to somebody when I first start the conversation, especially if it's to enroll them? Well, hey, what I'd love to do, Dr. Vicky, is I'd love to identify where you are, where you want to go, right? In order to help you get from where you are to where you want to go, it helps to have a good reference. But what I'd love to do is ask you a few basic questions about, you know, where you are, where you want to go, give you a chance to ask some question. If we've got a good fit, we'll talk about going to the next step, right? That's an example of how you might, some of the pieces you might use in opening a conversation. Where are you? Where do you want to go? One of the questions to ask somebody is like, what if we were meeting a year from today, what would have to happen for you to feel happy and satisfied with the progress? Get a view of what their view of success would be. Another good one is to ask, I mean, you know you better than I know you. What are some of the resources, tools, you know, things that you like, that you know you would engage in, that would give you a chance to have the most success? right? That's a really good question to ask somebody, right? Because now you're co-creating if you have the ability, and if you don't have the ability to help them and provide it, then you can refer them to someone else, right? Another great question. In fact, I'm firmly convinced that if you and your team just get good every day at asking this question every day, 5 times per person in your team, what's the number one thing you need the most help with right now? Now, by the way, in this phone conversation, you're going from broad and starting to narrow down till you get to this one thing. Now you narrow down, and really it's about you becoming a solution provider, right? Helping them solve the problem. Now, again, you can see a good example, but this model, you pique their interest with your offer or the application. They fill out like a little mini survey, and then you invite them to a phone call. And again, if you want to see an example of like a page that's set up for this, you can go to breakthroughstrategycall.com for that, right? Here's another example. We grew from 39 candidates a year to 100 a month. Again, some people don't show up or they're not qualified or both, right? In this example with this client, they had 100 a month. 35 of those were not qualified. 65 got booked. 30 to 35 showed up every month, right? 10 enrollments a month on average for a $10,000 to $25,000 program. The average lifetime value for each client was about 65 grand or 2.2 years, added over 3 million per year to their business, right? With this kind of a model, right? In a simple, again, person to person, right? You use the tech to set up the kind of conversations you want or the enrollment method that works for you, right? Another one is a medical practice, right? We ran tiny ads on Facebook to a free dinner seminar, and they got 20 to 35 people a week that would register for that event. They would get 10 to 15 enrollments per month for an alternative medical solution that was 7 to 15 grand per, right? So anywhere from 70 to 150 grand a month. He then not only did it live, but then we created a evergreen version of this that drove to a call, and they were doing virtual stuff. They still had to do some things where people had to come in live because they had to do certain tests and fill out certain paperwork live for compliance, right? But you can use portions of automation and portions of live both to work together. And that's what he's done incredibly, incredibly well, right? He's also helped his clients put this in place in excess of 6 figures a month with what we've shown him, right? Can be really, really powerful, right? Book model 6 is the book model, right? So when I launched this book and some other books that I've written, because I've had a few, we had a book for $17 and included some fax action bonuses to encourage them to buy the book. Then we immediately offered a $47 to $97 program as an offer, an upsell. Then we had another upsell at the time for a continuity membership program for $197 a month, right? Then our team would follow up with all the buyers of the book for additional done-for-you services. We had mentoring, coaching, other advertising, et cetera, right? Became pretty powerful, right? This is an example of one of the book pages we've got today, right? You'll see it. Again, it's very simple, very simple. It's not complicated, fancy pants, et cetera. If you want to check it out, this offer, by the way, we let someone name their price. It's called the Name Your Price offer, right? So you name your own price starting at $5 for the book. So whatever you choose is whatever you choose, but you can get a chance to check that out as a sample if you want to go to the page. You go to, what is it? I gotta see my screen. championbook.breakthrough3x.com. Maybe Phil can type it in /champion in the making, right? To see an example of that, of how you could put something like this in place, right? Something fun and creative. I like doing fun and creative things like this. Name your price. Like, yeah, you tell me what the book you think would be worth after you've read this page, right? It's up to you. No worries, either way. So one of the best book models I've seen, frankly, and one of my favorites in the market is Sachin's. If you haven't gotten his book yet, again, go check out it. If nothing else, reverse engineer what he's got that you could look to model at some point. Like, and again, some of these may be today for you. Some of these may be tomorrow. Some of these may be never, frankly, right? For your business. But these 6 core models are the 6 that are working best in the marketplace right now, today, right? So you can go to getperfectpractice.com, check his out. This one is like awesome. This is amazing. Like, it's like, if I couldn't ask for a better presentation to do this and show the book model and then have his to show, truthfully, right? Because it's just so good. The testimonials are amazing. The offer, get the free book. It's amazing. This is a great thing to get to some friends you might know who are practitioners and things like that. So here are a couple key strategies when you do this, right? Because there's sometimes misunderstanding of how this model works. What you sell, right? Online offsets the cost of what you invest in ads if you're running ads, right? And then you have to identify what is the time frame you can afford to wait, or you want to wait, or you can wait to recuperate the cost. See, if you're in a place where your business is so tight budget-wise, where you have to make that cash flow work in a couple of weeks, you're going to take a different approach than, like for me, whether I really do much anymore or not, my wife and I don't have to work anymore, right? So I can play a longer game and stretch it out. Now, I still want it to be profitable because I don't want to be promiscuous. That's stupid. That's dumb business, right? Never want to be in a loss. But if you have the ability to play a longer game, it does give you an advantage. It definitely does. But if you have to today play a short game, I've been there. So you just have to assess your numbers based on being able to play the short game, right? But set the expectation to know the reality of what it will be for you, right? Now, my question to you is, what's the value for you if you got all of these models in place, or even one new one in place in the next 90 days or less? What's the value? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pull out a sheet of paper again. Now I want you to think about, like, okay, what's one of these models I could get in place next, right? Because you might have one in place, but you might not have any in place. What's one model you could get in place next, or you'd be maybe excited to test, right? No anchor here. We don't have to tie anything because you might be focused on something else right now, which is fine. But what's one that intrigues you? You're like, one of these 6. Yes, let me go for this one, right? Is it a book? Is it like the education-based event, which is a pretty simple one to set up, right? So I want you to pull out a sheet of paper, and I want you to, and I did this, actually. I hand wrote versions of ours to just show you. If it can't be this simple, it's probably too complicated, right? Keep it simple. So this is an example of model 2, right? Because model 1 is just you run ads to your audiences. That's pretty simple. And again, you got a real simple tool with Bob and Sachin creating something special for you to do. But if you do want to do it on your own, it's not that, it won't, you'll be easier and better to do it with someone like them, but it's not that complicated either, right? So the list building tool, right? What is the list building tool that you could create for what you're doing, right? And this is what it looks like. Checklist to a survey maybe, or you might just cut out this survey and drive straight to a thank you page. The E stand for emails, by the way. Those are just email follow-ups. So when someone opts in on the list, right, they give you their name and email, then you email them on a follow-up basis to then look to invite them to, like, book a call, or to, you might invite them to get your book if you have one, or attend your webinar, or get one of your programs, right? So this is an example of a hand-drawn 1-page example of a list building model that's set up, right? How about this one? Your direct offer. Map out your sales model blueprint, right, for your direct offer. So you've got a list now of people, if you've got them on a list, or you've got them as contacts. And now you might email them an invitation, or text them an invitation if you have them in your cell phone, and just go, hey, check this out. And you send them to the link to your page where the offer is, right? And you're either on there, it's an invitation to book a call with you, or to get one of your programs, or to get one of your books, or something like that. This is an example of one of ours on a 1-pager. So again, map yours out. Like, pick one of these 6. And again, you can come back, because you might go, I'm Dan Sachin, I want to get more aggressive. I want to get 5 of the 6 in place this next 90 days. That's awesome, right? Everybody goes at their own pace. But I challenge you to think of one in the next 90 days, minimally, up to the 6. Pick one that intrigues you, right? Here's another one. The education-based event model, like a webinar, right? They have a registration page where they're opting in. They go to a thank you page where you basically put the details of how to join, what to do next, 1, 2, 3 steps. Then you actually have the event. We're doing an event right now. This is an event, right? Now, this is not an opportunity for an enrollment event, right? This is more of a fulfillment event. This one represents an enrollment event. So with that, you'd have email follow-ups, you'd have text follow-ups potentially. But on the event, right, we could invite, like, if this were a traditional enrollment event, I would be making an offer. You've probably attended things like that before, right? Done right, it's very natural. It's a natural extension of the event, and it's really well done. It doesn't feel salesy, it doesn't feel hypey, all those sorts of things, right? You can build your version of that, right? It can be a 60-minute event, it can be a 90-minute event, it could be a 3-day event, it could be a 5-day challenge. There's all kinds of, but this is the simple architecture to structure it, and then make your invitation, book a call, make your offer. And then afterward, here's the real key. These E's again stand for emails, right? Minimally look to follow up whatever you do for at least 14 days in the relationship, right? Kind of like dating, right? 14 days minimum, right? Put a series together of conversations, invitations, etc. to email, right? Really, really powerful. That's a sales version. Here's a book model. You've got your list. You might send them a text, or you might send them an email directly to one of two pages. One could be like that text page, like you saw of mine, right? I would call that the ugly sales page. And then you've got Sachin's like fancy pants. He's got both text and he's got a video, like amazing, like super amazing, right? That's what this represents that I drew here, right? My ugly one and his fancy pants, beautiful one. Both of them work, by the way, right? Both of them work. So it just depends on where you're at and partially like bandwidth, right? Now, as part of that offer for the book, it might invite them to some other offer, right? Earlier, like if you go check mine out and you actually get the book, let's say, you'll find I don't have an offer, right? In the old days, I had offers of like $47.97 and $197. Again, at this point, it's not that important for me to have an offer on there, right? So, but I wouldn't encourage you if you're new to not consider having some kind of offer on the back of it, right? The book model, okay? So hopefully, again, I'm showing these like as real. These are ones I drew out literally to set up for this. So ideally, you're seeing like how you can put this in place. Here's the key, plan A or plan B. I say we go with plan A, right? How about you? Plan A, the one with profits and growth in impact. If that's a yes, hopefully you're saying yes, right? Awesome. Have you drawn out your blueprint? Right? Did you map it out? All right, let's rate this segment 1 to 10. 1 low, 10 high. Just want to get your feedback. 1 to 10. And I see, I know Sachin can make an announcement. Some of you have access to some of the most amazing tools, templates, and so on that he gives you that are done for you kind of stuff, that if you just use them and modify them, you're plugging into these 6 already and it like saves times, 10s. Wow, thank you. Thank you. Anna, thank you. I think that's a good thing. What does that say? Holy shrinky mouth. Awesome. Carla, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So yes, Sachin is generous. 10 in caps. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. So here's what I'd like to do. I never like to leave an event open-ended. So here's what I'd love us to do to bring clarity and bring this to a close. And then I'll have just a little closing segment here. I want you to write down, like, what are your 1 to 5 action steps from today? Right? What are your 1 to 5 action steps? Just take a couple minutes to write those out. 1 to 5 action steps, right? What are you going to take action with? 1 to 5 action. By the way, if there's more than 5, feel free to write more, right? But ideally, at least 1 to 5 action steps from today's segment together. Sharon, thank you. That's awesome. Your 1 to 5 action steps from today's segment. We covered a lot, right? In fact, let me just, while you're doing that, writing out your action steps, I'm going to do a quick summary of what we covered. So just go ahead and keep writing your action steps. If you want to type them in the chat window, by the way, and make your commitments public, that's always a fun thing to do, right? And so many actions. Update your bio, your message. Remember, we covered your offer, right? We covered a lot in a short period of time, didn't we? At times, did you probably feel like you were drinking out of a fire hose? We did cover a lot in a short time. And then, because of time, we went a little fast. Usually what I like to do is have people share a little bit more than we did today, truthfully, right? I wish I had more time with you, truly do. But you're working with one of my favorite people in the entire world who will make a difference in your life, especially if you take a long-term approach at this, to help you save a lot of money, save a lot of time and more. And you probably already know that. So let me just share this wrap up with you. All right, so today we covered the 4 pillars. We didn't get to the 4th, as I mentioned up front, time permitting. Perfect your message, model, and offer to get clients daily and get out of the day-to-day, right? Ideally, you're starting to see a new view of how to get your perfect client blueprint in place to get new patients, right? We talked about pillar 1, how to attract your perfect patients and clients with a perfect message, right? Hopefully that might be one of the focuses of your action step, right? Your unique MO method, right? You might be taking that worksheet and really crystallizing and getting deeper with it. So when you get this right, it makes it so much easier for your clients to say yes. And you then have like little ability for people to knock you off as easily, or you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many people that are like me because of that unique naming and unique method, right? Pillar 3, we covered creating your ultimate blueprint. We showed you 6 models that led to 1,000 leads and 100 sales a day and 100 million in business, right? We didn't get a chance to get into more optimization, but we talked about how to position yourself. We talked about how to fill your pipeline and calendar, right? With the 6 core models, right? We showed you a step-by-step approach to transform your message and actually do the exercises together. We showed you how to structure your offer to get your clients to say and a lot more, right? Realize this, it's your time. It's your time to do something big, to do something special, right? And you're working with someone who's an amazing human being that can help you do big things, right? No matter where you're at. Doesn't matter where you're at today. It's kind of like gold. You know, Sachin's throwing out gold to you. Some of you, I hope, will not let it sail over your head. Others of you, initially, just because of timing and the maturity of where you're at in your business, that gold might like fumble and you might feel like you even dropped it on your toe, but you're aware enough to pick it up and still appreciate and value the gold. And then others of you, when you get this gold, because maybe you're a little further along, you catch the gold, you understand the value of this gold. And then not only do you go out and make a big impact, but then you look to start sharing that gold with others. And that's the mission, right? It's your time, it's your place. So Sachin, is there anything you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Oh, so much. First of all, thank you, Dan. That was so awesome, and always learn so much from you. And even though we spend an hour, sometimes an hour and a half every week together, I could listen to you for the rest of the day. I do know you have obviously a busy day ahead of you, so grateful for you going a little bit over. As we mentioned, as always, we record everything, so we'll have this up and shareable as quickly as possible for everyone to go back and watch back through any of the sections that they'd like to. But thank you so much value, and I know that you could keep going, and there's a part of you that wants to keep going, but I also know there's a part of you, the most important part of you, right, of being a husband and a father, that responsibility is calling you. So thank you again, and so much love and gratitude and appreciation.
Thank you. And I'm going to end with one last thing that I just pulled off of my wall. Is this is something I wrote. It's called the Entrepreneur's Anthem. And I think all of you will connect to this at a deep, deep level, I think. And if not, you can let me know that too. But hopefully there's something here. So the Entrepreneur's Anthem. You're the creator, the explorer, the adventurer, the dreamer, the innovator, the geek, the grunt, the achiever, the black sheep, the pioneer at heart. You're a servant leader, a warrior, a conqueror, the rugged individualist, the cowboy, the patriot, the protector, the trailblazer, the thrill seeker, the bull in a china shop. You're a servant leader, a steward of life, liberty, and the pursuit of progress and innovation. You build, grow, and stretch the status quo. You live to make a difference, add value, and contribute. You are the entrepreneur, business owner, and champion. And today, I raise my glass to you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone.
It's been an honor. Thank you, guys. Take action with this. Plug into all the stuff and resources Sachin's got available. I look forward to checking in with Sachin on the progress of all of you, because we do check in every week, and I would love to see and find out how you all are doing. So go make a difference today. Thank you.
Amazing. Bye, everyone. Have an awesome day. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Phil.